Chapter 80. Bailey Yin was silent for a moment before nodding in agreement. All right. When the two of them walked to the front of the container, the crowd erupted into a chorus of boos. Ever since the selection banquet, the conflict between Bailey Yin and Bailey Hongzhuang had been brought to the surface. Regarding the fact that Bailey Yin had poisoned Bailey Hongzhuang and turned him blind, everyone felt that Bailey Yin was too vicious. Some of the people who were close to Bailey Yin had gradually distanced themselves from her. Now that they saw Bailey Yin and her brother arriving at Godly Doctor Square, everyone was naturally happy to watch the show. 2 energy-enhancing pills, Bailey Yin said to Dong Sairu. 1 energy-enhancing pill was 50,000 gold coins. It was 10,000 gold coins more expensive than Heavenly Jewel Pavilion, but it was much more worth it than pleasing Du Hanyue. Since Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't here, she would buy the energy-enhancing pills first. Bailey Haoshuan revealed a look of joy. He would finally be able to get his hands on an energy-enhancing pill before the royal hunting competition began. Dong Sairu looked at the Bailey siblings and couldn't help but laugh in her heart. Miss Bailey's guess was right. Bailey Yin and Bailey Hongzhuang were really here. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown when Dong Sairu didn't move for a long time. Hurry up and give it to me. Our boss said that we can sell the energy-enhancing pills to anyone but the general's residence. Dong Sairu said indifferently. This bad woman was so vicious. She had always bullied their boss, and now she wanted to buy the energy-enhancing pills from him. Dream on. Hearing this, Bailey Yin and Bailey Haoshuan's faces instantly turned ashen. What a Bailey Hongzhuang! The crowd couldn't help but laugh. Bailey Yin's evil deeds were retribution. Bailey Hongzhuang's refusal to sell the energy-enhancing pills to her was only natural. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang is not here, give me the 2 energy cultivation pills, and I'll give you 1,000 gold coins as thanks. How about that? Bailey Yin lowered her voice. She couldn't ignore her image in front of so many people. This was the only way. You want to bribe me? Dong Sairu's eyes were filled with disdain. Impossible. When she was poor, it was Bailey Hongzhuang who gave her a job. Over the past few days, Bailey Hongzhuang had not only treated them extremely well, she had even taught them some medical skills without reservation. She felt that the luckiest thing in her life was being able to follow Bailey Hongzhuang. Not to mention 1,000 gold coins. Even if it was 10 million gold coins, she would not hesitate to refuse. The 2 of you should leave. Godly Doctor Square does not welcome you. Du Tianxuo was even more impolite. He was filled with disgust towards these 2 fellows. He felt that they were an eyesore just by standing there. Seeing the attitude of Du Tianxuo and Dong Sairu, Bailey Yin was furious. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like that? I think you're tired of living. She was the daughter of a general's estate. Her status was far above that of a commoner. How dare these fellows look down on her? Bailey Haoshuan's face was cold. If you don't want to die, then obediently sell the energy-enhancing pills to us. It's not worth it to lose your life for Bailey Hongzhuang. I didn't think that young Master Bailey would threaten someone's life for a mere energy-enhancing pill. A light and pleasant voice was filled with ridicule and disdain. The crowd saw a white figure slowly walk out from behind Godly Doctor Square. Who else could this person be other than Bailey Hongzhuang? Chapter 81. 1,000 gold coins. Isn't Miss Bailey a little too stingy? Her delicate jade-like face rippled with a faint smile, but her black eyes sparkled with a cold light. Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Yin gritted her teeth. She didn't know when it started, but she had no way to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson. This pill was only placed here by someone else for sale. Why won't you sell it to us? Bailey Haoshuan coldly said. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Who told you that this pill was placed here by someone else for sale? If that wasn't the case, could it be that you were the one who refined it? Bailey Hongzhuang ridiculed. That's right. I was the one who refined it. Bailey Hongzhuang, I didn't know you were so shameless before, lying through your teeth without the slightest bit of shame. Bailey Yin mercilessly mocked. She wanted to let everyone know Bailey Hongzhuang's true colors. The smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's face was still there, but her voice was overbearing. Which eye of yours saw that this pill wasn't refined by me? What's more, even if this pill really wasn't refined by me, so what? I said I won't sell it, so I won't sell it." As she spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her voice. "Godly Dr. Square does not welcome people from the general's household. If anyone buys this pill and sells it to the general's household, once discovered, they will never be welcomed." Her cold and indifferent voice was filled with dominance and determination, clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. Some of the people who had been scheming in their hearts dispelled the idea after hearing this. Whether it was Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills or so many pills, it was enough to show Godly Dr. Square's remarkable abilities. Offending Godly Dr. Square for the sake of the general's household was not a worthwhile thing to do. Bailey Yuyin's face was ashen. "Bailey Hongzhuang, you're going too far." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile became even more enchanting and charming. "I did bully you. What can you do about it? You're courting death." Bailey Haoxuan roared angrily, and the origin energy in his body burst forth in an instant. His right hand clenched into a fist, and he mercilessly attacked Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Did this woman really think that he wouldn't dare to do anything to her in front of so many people? He wanted to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson and let her know who was the superior one. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed, and a terrifying murderous aura erupted from her eyes. She stretched out her palm and met Bailey Haoxuan's fist. Bang! Elemental energy collided with each other, sending shockwaves flying everywhere. When the crowd saw Bailey Haoxuan attacking Bailey Hongzhuang, they had a bad premonition. Bailey Hongzhuang's inability to cultivate was a well-known fact. Bailey Haoxuan was a cultivator at the Mystic Earth middle stage. If his fist landed, Bailey Hongzhuang would be seriously injured. However, under the crowd's astonished gazes, Bailey Hongzhuang's right hand clenched tightly onto Bailey Haoxuan's fist. The expected serious injury of Bailey Hongzhuang did not appear. Bailey Haoxuan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. Although he already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was able to cultivate on the night she left the general's household. But no matter what, Bailey Hongzhuang was not his match. But when they exchanged blows, he clearly felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was much stronger than his. This is impossible. Bailey Haoxuan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. When did Bailey Hongzhuang start cultivating? Bailey Yuyin was also stunned. She knew that Bailey Haoxuan had not held back at all. Chapter 82. "Let go of me," Bailey Haoxuan roared. It was already embarrassing enough to be subdued by Bailey Hongzhuang in front of so many people. So what if I don't let go? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold. What she hated the most was Bailey Haoxuan's bossy attitude. "If you don't let go, I'll kill you." Bailey Haoxuan's tone was unyielding and cold. Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to make him lose face. "You must kill Bailey Hongzhuang. It seems that you still don't understand the current situation." Her cherry blossom-like red lips curved into an enchanting smile, but her dark eyes were completely covered by ice. In the next moment, under the shocked gazes of countless people, Bailey Hongzhuang's palm fiercely chopped towards Bailey Haoxuan's wrist. Crack! The crisp sound of bones breaking clearly entered everyone's ears, followed by Bailey Haoxuan's heart-wrenching scream. A drip, drip. Fresh blood dripped onto the ground, the dark red color irritating everyone's eyes. Bailey Haoxuan's hand was actually directly crippled by Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Yuyin stood in place in a daze. This scene happened too suddenly. She never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually dare to deal with Bailey Haoxuan. By the time she reacted, it was already too late. "Bailey Hongzhuang, you dare to hurt Haoxuan. Don't tell me you really don't want to live anymore?" Bailey Yuyin said angrily. Bailey Haoxuan was Bailey Jintao's only son, and he usually doted on him a lot. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to break Bailey Haoxuan's hand, wasn't she afraid of Bailey Jintao? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a mocking smile. "I've never done anything to you in the past, but didn't you almost force me to death? Isn't it too laughable to say this to me now?" From the very beginning, she was already standing in the worst situation. What else did she need to worry about? Bailey Yuyan was startled. She actually couldn't refute Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Bailey Hongzhuang, I won't let you off, Bailey Haoshuan said through gritted teeth. His eyes were already bloodshot. Ever since he was born, he had never been so heavily injured by anyone. Of Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Haoshuan. Of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey, TSK, what a sharp gaze. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang's tone changed. Do you know that for the past 14 years, I've always looked at you with that kind of gaze? Bailey Hongzhuang's words were spoken in a soft voice, but Bailey Haoshuan couldn't help but shiver. He suddenly felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was very terrifying. If you're smart, it's best that you take a detour when you see me in the future. Otherwise, next time, it won't be as simple as breaking an arm. Bailey Hongzhuang stood up and coldly glanced at Bailey Yuyan and Bailey Haoshuan. Now scram. Her beautiful face was filled with hatred. Bailey Yuyan really wanted to rush up and fight with Bailey Hongzhuang. However, Bailey Haoshuan's condition couldn't be delayed. They must find a doctor as soon as possible to reattach his arm. Otherwise, Bailey Haoshuan's life would be ruined. After Bailey Yuyan and Bailey Yuyan had left, the crowd sighed with emotion. The Bailey Hongzhuang of today could not be mentioned in the same breath as she was in the past. She was ruthless and decisive in her actions. She did not hesitate in the slightest, making everyone shudder. However, when they thought about everything that the Bailey siblings had done in the past, everyone felt that Bailey Hongzhuang had done the right thing. Chapter 83. This matter quickly spread throughout the imperial city. Recently, Bailey Hongzhuang had become the most attention-grabbing person in the imperial city. Bailey Hongzhuang refused to sell the pills to the general's estate and even crippled Bailey Haoshuan's hand in front of everyone. Prime Minister Li Changxian led a group of officials who didn't have a good relationship with Bailey Jintao. They were happy to watch the show, but they didn't expect Bailey Jintao to be so blind. In their opinion, among the three children of Bailey Yuyan, Bailey Hongzhuang, and Bailey Haoshuan, Bailey Hongzhuang was the most promising. However, Bailey Jintao had nurtured the best helper into a true opponent. Just Bailey Hongzhuang alone was enough to make Bailey Jintao badly battered. This was really too interesting. Jingli Garden, I heard that you taught Bailey Haoshuan a lesson today. Di Beichun asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. News spreads really quickly in the imperial city. It had only been a short 4 hours since the incident happened, but so many people already knew about it. Bailey Haoshuan is Bailey Jintao's treasured son. You crippled his hand, so I'm afraid Bailey Jintao won't be able to take it lying down. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. She wanted to know why Di Beichun suddenly brought up this matter. In my opinion, why don't we get married earlier? Once you become my woman, Bailey Jintao won't be able to control you in the slightest. How about it? Di Beichun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile that wasn't a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. She didn't expect Di Beichun to suddenly say such words. Her mind moved. She stared at Di Beichun for a moment and suddenly smiled. All right. Under Bailey Jintao's control, the news of her severing ties with the general's estate was not known to others. Now, there were many people in the imperial city who said she was unfilial. Di Beichun suddenly said such words at this time. It was because he cared about her. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang answer so readily, Di Beichun's smile became even more brilliant. His eyes were like shattered gems, shining brightly. If you don't have any objections, I'm going to send the betrothal gifts. Di Beichun chuckled. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. I've already severed all ties with the general's residence, so I will not be getting married from the general's residence. No problem. Di Beichun was not surprised at all. Then, how about we get married in Jingli Garden? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Her actions were incomprehensible to others, but fortunately, Di Beichun had always understood her thoughts. Young master, Bailey Jintao, was furious when he heard the news. He is preparing to go to Godly Doctor Square tomorrow to teach Miss Bailey a lesson. He Mu's face darkened as he reported the news to Di Beichun. Do you want me to send someone to teach Bailey Jintao a lesson? Although he knew that the young master would object to this, he still couldn't help himself. What was wrong with Miss Bailey? The general's residence had always mistreated her, but now, for the sake of Bailey Haoxuan, he actually threatened to kill Bailey Hongzhuang, this unfilial daughter. In the past, when Bailey Yuyin had poisoned Miss Bailey blind, Bailey Jintao had never punished Bailey Yuyin in the slightest. Send someone to warn Bailey Jintao. Remember not to reveal your identity. Di Beichen's eyes were filled with a cold light. Bailey Hongzhuang was one of his people. Whoever dared to harm Bailey Hongzhuang, he would definitely not let them off. Hearing this, Heimu couldn't help but stare at Di Beichen with wide eyes. Usually, when he suggested something like this, the young master would never agree. Why did his attitude change today? Chapter 84. I'll do it right away, Heimu said excitedly. Wait. Di Beichen suddenly shouted for him to stop. Heimu couldn't help but worry. Did the young master suddenly change his mind? Cripple that old man's hand, as you command. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang went to Godly Doctor Square as usual, waiting for Bailey Jintao to find trouble with her. With Bailey Jintao's personality, he definitely wouldn't let her off after finding out that Bailey Haoxuan was injured. However, after staying in Godly Doctor Square for an entire day, Bailey Hongzhuang still hadn't seen Bailey Jintao. She couldn't help but feel puzzled. Bailey Jintao, that old man, will not come, right? Xiao He said while bouncing on the table. Xiao Bai also felt that it was strange. I don't think that old man will be so nice. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking, Ji Wenbin walked over with a smile. Hongzhuang, I heard interesting news, haha. What news is so interesting? Didn't you cripple Bailey Haoxuan's hand yesterday? Ji Wenbin's eyebrows were full of smiles. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. Everyone already knew about it yesterday. What's so funny? Ji Wenbin waved his hand. That's not the funniest part. The funniest part is that not only did something happen today, but Great General Bailey Jintao's hand was also crippled. Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. Is what you said true? Of course it's true. I just heard about it, but everyone should know soon. Ji Wenbin laughed. The general's family bullied you so much. Now, they're getting their just desserts. A trace of a smile appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, but she couldn't help but think of Di Beichen. This matter, could it be that Di Beichen did it? The general's residence was currently in chaos. Su Wanjing knew that Bailey Haoxuan had lost his right arm. Although the doctors had reconnected the bone, it would take at least 3 months for him to fully recover. She was afraid that she would not be able to participate in the royal hunting competition. She was looking forward to Bailey Jintao teaching Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson. Her precious son hadn't even hit her in all these years. Now that he had been severely injured by Bailey Hongzhuang, it was absolutely unforgivable. However, Bailey Jintao had also appeared in front of her while clutching his injured right arm. Master, what happened to you? Su Wanjing asked with concern. Bailey Jintao's expression was extremely ugly as he said in a low voice, It's nothing. Don't ask anymore. This matter was really hard for him to talk about. He was a great general, but he didn't even get to see the other party's appearance clearly before he was beaten up. His right hand was even broken by the other party. Although he did not know who this person was, he knew that this person must be related to Bailey Hongzhuang. Before the other party left, he had left a message for him. Don't disturb Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. This matter made him extremely alarmed. The other party was actually able to silently sneak into the general's residence, and he wasn't a match for him. If you want to find trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang again, he was afraid that the general's residence would be in trouble. At this moment, Bailey Jintao suddenly felt incomparably regretful. If he had known that there was such a power behind Bailey Hongzhuang, he definitely wouldn't have treated Bailey Hongzhuang that way. Just the Godly Doctor Square alone was a huge gold mine. What's more, the Godly Doctor Square was now selling pills. Chapter 85. Seeing Bailey Jintao's serious expression, Su Wanjing didn't dare to ask any more questions. Instead, she said, Lord, no matter what, you must avenge Haoxuan. Bailey Jintao, who was already vexed over this matter, became even more infuriated when he heard Su Wanjing's words. He was beaten up because his skills weren't up to par. Yet he still wants me to lose face with him. Bailey Jintao flew into a rage. He pointed at Bailey Yuyin and angrily said, "You better behave for the next few days. Don't go out and stir up trouble. You're not allowed to find trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang. Do you understand?" Bailey Yuyin looked at Bailey Jintao in astonishment. Why was her father suddenly protecting Bailey Hongzhuang? Su Wanjing was also stunned. Last night, Lord clearly said that he would teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson today. How did his attitude completely change after just one night? After the wound was bandaged, Bailey Jintao flicked his sleeves and left. Today's matters were truly too vexing. The sun shone with gold, birds chirped, and flowers bloomed. When Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the room, she suddenly discovered that Jingli Garden had changed greatly. The maids and footboys were busily shuttling back and forth, making her suspect that she stayed in the wrong place last night. With a stiff expression, Bailey Hongzhuang took a step forward. Looking at the familiar peach forest, she confirmed that she didn't go to the wrong place. Immediately, she quickly walked towards Jingli Garden's entrance. "Congratulations, Miss Bailey. Congratulations, Miss Bailey." Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang walk out, the maids and footboys all saluted and congratulated her. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was strange. She didn't understand what was going on with these people. Immediately after, Bailey Hongzhuang saw large red lanterns hanging high. The usually quiet and elegant Jingli Garden became unusually festive. Outside the entrance, the carriages were constantly unloading things. They were all red in color. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but think of two words: betrothal gifts. Sure enough, Di Beichun appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. "Wife, are you satisfied with the betrothal gifts I gave you?" Looking at the bridal gifts piled up at the door, Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth blossomed into a smile. Barely. These betrothal gifts were much more than what the other young misses received. Even if a prince was marrying a wife, this was more than twice the amount. Just barely? Di Beichun pretended to frown discontentedly, turn around, and look again. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was puzzled and turned her head. She did not understand what Di Beichun wanted her to see. "Master, look, the name on the plaque has changed." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyes to look at the signboard. She discovered that the original words Jingli Garden had been changed to Qinzhuang Garden. "Wife, this is also one of my betrothal gifts," Di Beichun said with a smile. Such a big movement had already attracted the attention of the people. When the people found that Di Beichun was here to give the betrothal gifts, they were very puzzled. Didn't the emperor marry Bailey Hongzhuang to Di Beichun? It was too strange that Di Beichun did not go to the general's mansion to give the betrothal gifts, but here instead. However, when the people saw Bailey Hongzhuang coming out of Qinzhuang Garden, they showed a look of understanding. It turned out that Miss Bailey lived here. Prince Chen's betrothal gifts are really generous. It's much more than the other prince's gifts. Someone exclaimed. Chapter 86. That proves that Prince Chen cares a lot about Miss Bailey. However, Miss Bailey is so outstanding that I think it's worth it no matter how many betrothal gifts there are. Everyone nodded. Xin Yuan Huan and Bailey Jintao were blind. Bailey Hongzhuang was so outstanding that he didn't want to marry Li Yuyue and Bailey Yuyin. Prince Chen was so lucky. However, Prince Chen should go to the general's mansion to send the betrothal gifts. Why did he send the betrothal gifts here in Qinzhuang Garden? What about the general's mansion's face? Everyone was stunned. Indeed, if Prince Chen sent the betrothal gifts here, wouldn't he directly ignore the general's mansion? Didn't you see that Miss Bailey has already fallen out with the general's mansion? Maybe this is Miss Bailey's idea. Everyone suddenly understood. Previously in Godly Doctor Square, the relationship between Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Yuyin was so stiff. If they returned to the general's mansion, they wouldn't have a good time, so they directly lived outside the general's mansion. The servants were busy carrying the betrothal gifts into the elegant court. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile became softer and softer. At this moment, she felt that everyone's opinions were no longer important. As long as she and Di Beichun understood each other's thoughts, it was enough. Aren't you afraid of offending Bailey Jintao by sending the betrothal gifts so openly? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a smile. Di Beichun raised his long eyebrows. The reason why I'm afraid of my father-in-law is that I'm worried that he won't marry his daughter to me. Since you've already promised me, I'll naturally be on the same side as you. I'll hate what you hate even more. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile gradually rose. I'm very satisfied with these betrothal gifts. 7 days later will be an auspicious day. I've already told the emperor that we'll get married on that day. What do you think? Up to you. However, our marriage is just a cover. It's not real. Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized. Di Beichun nodded without a care. I understand. If my wife is willing to do it with me, I don't mind. Bailey Hongzhuang needed him to avoid some trouble, and he also needed Bailey Hongzhuang to help him cover up. The two of them getting married was a win-win situation. I mind. Wife, if you say that, your husband will be sad. Come on. Bailey Hongzhuang cast a sidelong glance at him and chuckled. I'm in a good mood today. I'll treat you to a meal at a restaurant. Really? You're not lying to me, right? Of course. While Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were happily drinking and eating, Bailey Jintao's lungs were about to explode from anger. This Di Beichun is too much. He doesn't put me in his eyes at all. Bailey Jintao fiercely smashed the teacup on the ground. The imperial city wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun's marriage was so eye-catching. Today's matter was known to everyone. That fellow Li Changxian even took the opportunity to ridicule him. Now he had become the joke of the entire imperial city. Father, this matter must have been instigated by Bailey Hongzhuang. Otherwise, Prince Chun has no reason to do this. Bailey Yuyan's face was livid. Bailey Hongzhuang's actions were getting more and more excessive. Lord, in my opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang is doing this to take revenge on us. If we don't show some attitude, I'm afraid that girl will become even worse. Su Wanjing's eyes flashed with resentment. She really wanted to kill that girl directly. Chapter 87. This is too outrageous. I'm going to report Prince Chun to the emperor. Bailey Jintao was furious. He had been respected all his life. When had he ever been so aggrieved? Master, why don't you just come out and teach that girl a lesson? Su Wanjing said with dissatisfaction. Could it be that you want to mend your father-daughter relationship after seeing that girl become successful? Now that Bailey Hongzhuang was a popular person, whether it was for her medical skills or medicinal pills, most of the influential people in the imperial city wanted to be on good terms with Bailey Hongzhuang. So it was not strange for Bailey Jintao to have such thoughts. What nonsense are you talking about? Bailey Jintao angrily rebuked. It's not up to you to ask about this. Since the other party could break his hand, they could also take his life. Compared to losing face, his life was more important. Being reprimanded by Bailey Jintao like this, Su Wanjing's eyes couldn't help but sparkle. All these years, the general had been very good to her, and usually, he didn't even say a harsh word. But now, because of Bailey Hongzhuang, she had been reprimanded by the general many times. Bailey Yin looked at the sad Su Wanjing and couldn't help but stand up and say, Father, everyone knows that Bailey Hongzhuang is behind this. Why are you protecting that girl? If you had the ability to win against that girl, I wouldn't be so upset. Bailey Yin's face turned pale, and in her heart, she hated Bailey Hongzhuang to the extreme. If it weren't for Bailey Hongzhuang, their family wouldn't have become like this. The Imperial Palace. Xinyuan Yutian and Jiang Jining were playing together when Xinyuan Yutian put down a black piece. I'm afraid that General Bailey is angry now. Jiang Jining put down a white piece. He reaps what he sows. If General Bailey didn't mistreat Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't do this now. I think that Bailey Hongzhuang has a backbone. Oh, Xinyuan Yutian raised his eyebrows. You think Bailey Hongzhuang is not bad? Jiang Jining nodded with a faint smile. I think this girl is quite a character. What does your majesty think? General Bailey has made a mistake this time. Otherwise, Bailey Hongzhuang would be very suitable to be the crown princess. Xinyuan Yutian sighed. If it wasn't for the fact that it was too late, he definitely wouldn't have canceled the engagement between Huan Er and Bailey Hongzhuang. However, a monarch's words weren't a joke. Even if he felt that it was a pity, he couldn't change it. Today, the news of Di Baichen's betrothal gifts has spread throughout the imperial city, completely losing face for General Bailey. If General Bailey comes to participate, Your Majesty, Jiang Jinying hesitated. She knew that Di Baichen's identity was very special. It was difficult for the emperor to be caught in the middle. I'll just comfort General Bailey. Xinyuan Yutian's eyes flashed with a complicated look. Although it's been 3 years and there's still no movement from the top, we can't let our guard down. We can't touch Di Baichen. Jiang Jinying's eyes narrowed. She understood Xinyuan Yutian's meaning. This time, General Bailey could only be wronged. Time slowly passed. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't see Di Baichen because Di Baichen was preparing for their wedding. On the contrary, she completely became an idle person. All day long, she shuttled back and forth between Godly Doctor Square and Qinzhuang Garden. She didn't care about the wedding at all. However, Qinzhuang Garden had changed a lot. Di Baichen sent wave after wave of mamas, maidservants, and manservants to decorate Qinzhuang Garden. Bright red colors covered Qinzhuang Garden, showing a joyous atmosphere everywhere. The servants were busy shuttling back and forth, but their faces were full of joy. Chapter 88. That day, before dawn, Bailey Hongzhuang was surrounded by a large group of nannies and servant girls. They helped her put on the red wedding robe and began to help her with her makeup. Everyone was busy with one procedure after another. Bailey Hongzhuang was like a puppet, allowing everyone to help her put on her jewelry and comb her hair. So there were so many things to do when getting married. She finally understood why Di Baichen had been so busy these past few days that she could not even see him. Just understanding the various customs, customizing the wedding robe, and finding experienced nannies would take a lot of time. Master! Master! The black and white fur balls were tragically thrown to the side by the nannies and accidentally touched by a servant girl. Then, with so many servants walking around, the 2 fur balls faced the possibility of being stepped on at any time. Hearing the 2 fellows' calls, Bailey Hongzhuang realized their predicament and immediately put them back into the chaos ring. Otherwise, they would be trampled into flat balls. Ji Wenbin, Dong Sairu, and Du Tianxua came to Qinzhuang Garden early in the morning. They already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang planned to get married in Qinzhuang Garden and did not want to have any connection with the general's estate. Usually, a bride's wedding would be lively and bustling, but in this huge Qinzhuang Garden, there was only Bailey Hongzhuang and no family's blessing. It was a bit of a pity. Since they were Bailey Hongzhuang's good friends, they came today to act as Bailey Hongzhuang's family. At the very least, they sincerely hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang would be happy. The moment they entered Bailey Hongzhuang's room, the 3 of them were shocked by the scene in the room. A group of servants completely surrounded Bailey Hongzhuang and continuously placed all kinds of things on her body. Dong Sairu shrunk her neck. Wang Fei's wedding is indeed extraordinary. I have never seen such a lineup. It would be strange if you had seen it before, Du Tianxua said with a smile. If not for Wang Fei's noble status and Big Brother Ji's recommendation, we would not have had the chance to see Wang Fei's wedding. In this passive situation, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt that time passed abnormally slowly until the nannies looked at her and nodded in satisfaction. Too beautiful. This is the most beautiful Wang Fei I have ever seen. Not only the nannies, but the other people in the room also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with amazement. Such a beauty could topple cities. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at herself in the bronze mirror, but when she looked, she couldn't help but be a little dazed. Her hair was tied up high into a bun unique to the princess consort. Her slender eyebrows were gentle and elegant. Her phoenix-like eyes flickered with brilliant lights. Her cheeks were slightly flushed. Her nose was small and exquisite, and her cherry-red lips had an enchanting luster. The most eye-catching thing was the peach blossom that was specially drawn on her forehead. Just like the peach blossoms in Qinzhuang Garden, it symbolized the love between her and Di Baichen. Her ivory-white skin was bright and moist. Paired with the red wedding robe, she looked even more noble and elegant, peerless. When everything was ready, the servants all retreated. Now, they only had to wait for the auspicious time for Wang Yi to escort the bride. Seeing this, Ji Wenbin and the others walked into the room. Seeing them, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a brilliant smile. "You're here." Chapter 89. She was so beautiful. She was so beautiful that it was beyond their imagination. At this moment, they really understood the gap between Bailey Hongzhuang and them. She was the legitimate daughter of the general's mansion and Princess Chun. These two identities alone made her superior. Bailey Hongzhuang had never shown her superior side when she was with him in daily life, and they had never felt that there was any gap between them and the approachable Bailey Hongzhuang. However, at this moment, when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang, they realized the gap between them and her. "Hongzhuang, you are so beautiful today. You're the most beautiful woman in the imperial city," Don Cyrus said excitedly. She swore that she had never seen such a beautiful person in her life. Even though she was a woman, she was not jealous at all, because the gap between them was enough for her to look up to. In the past, the imperial city had not seriously judged who was the most beautiful woman, but many people believed that Bailey Yuyan was the most beautiful woman. Ever since Bailey Yuyan's face was disfigured, this rumor vanished like smoke. After Bailey Yuyan was disfigured, Li Yue, the daughter of the prime minister, who was the current crown princess, became the most beautiful woman in the imperial city. Originally, the title of the most beautiful woman in the imperial city was between Li Yue and Bailey Yuyan. Now that Bailey Yuyan was disqualified, the title of the most beautiful woman naturally fell on Li Yue. These days, Li Yue was very proud and acted more and more arrogantly. She even openly emphasized that she was the most beautiful woman in the imperial city. However, in Dong Cyrus's opinion, Li Yue could not be compared with Bailey Hongzhuang at all. Ji Wenbin and Du Tianxuo also nodded in agreement. Such a beauty was unforgettable. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and did not take these words to heart. For her, the title meant nothing. "Hongzhuang, I wish you happiness." Ji Wenbin gave his heartfelt blessings. He had always treated Bailey Hongzhuang as his little sister. Now that he saw Bailey Hongzhuang getting married, his heart was filled with emotions. "Thank you." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were gentle. "Fortunately, I have a group of good friends to accompany me on my wedding day." The moment she left the general's residence, she felt that she was all alone. But when she saw the three smiling faces in front of her, she realized that she was never alone. "Hongzhuang, you are getting married from the general's estate today." The general's estate. Ji Wenbin furrowed his brows. This was completely looking down on the general's residence. Wasn't he afraid of the general's wrath? After all, this wedding was the focus of the entire city. Even the emperor would personally attend. If Bailey Hongzhuang were to get married in Qinzhuang Garden, where would the general's estate's face be? Will the general attend this wedding? If Bailey Zhentao did not attend, everyone would inevitably discuss it. But if Bailey Zhentao attended, there would be no face left. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. What does their attendance have to do with me? She had already severed all ties with the general's estate. Besides, she was not a member of the general's estate to begin with. If today's wedding had caused Bailey Zhentao to lose face, then all these years, Bailey Zhentao had never given her any face. The face that he had never given her for more than 10 years. She would start to earn it back bit by bit. Bailey Zhentao also needed to properly taste the taste of losing face. Chapter 90. I'm just worried that if you do this, Bailey Zhentao will cause a huge commotion. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. With the emperor present, as long as he isn't brainless, he won't cause trouble. Hearing this, Ji Wenbin and the other two finally understood. They had been worried that Bailey Zhentao would ruin the wedding out of anger. At this moment, they remembered that the emperor would also be present, so Bailey Zhentao could only swallow this sullen feeling into his stomach. General's estate. Bailey Zhentao, Su Wanjing, Bailey Yuyan, and Bailey Haoshuan were all gathered in the front hall with ugly expressions on their faces. They thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely return to the general's estate for her grand wedding. After all, It would be too shabby for her to get married from another place. They had even thought of ridiculing Bailey Hongzhuang before helping her prepare for her wedding. However, there was no news for the entire day. It was only today that they were certain that Bailey Hongzhuang was really getting married from Qinzhuang Garden. She completely ignored the existence of the general's estate and got married from another place. Even Di Beichun didn't ask them and directly held the wedding. He simply didn't put the general's estate in his eyes. This Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun are too much, Bailey Yuyin angrily said. As a result, their entire general's estate didn't have any face. Bailey Jintao's face was gloomy. He had been respected all his life, but he didn't expect that because of Bailey Hongzhuang, he would lose face again and again. The last time he submitted a memorial, the emperor only comforted him and didn't give any punishment to Di Beichun. It was clear that he wanted him to swallow his anger. He didn't understand. In these 2 years, the emperor clearly didn't dote on Di Beichun as much as before. Why did his attitude suddenly change when it came to this matter? Lord, since Bailey Hongzhuang doesn't put us in her eyes, we won't attend this wedding. Su Wanjing's usually gentle face couldn't hide her anger. She really regretted not killing Bailey Hongzhuang back then. Hearing Su Wanjing's words, Bailey Jintao felt even angrier. His Majesty has bestowed a marriage, and even His Majesty will participate in the wedding. If we don't go, won't we be looking down on His Majesty? This was what angered him the most. Bailey Hongzhuang's actions had him in a tight grip. He had no other choice. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang had already thought of all this, so she did this? If that was the case, then this Bailey Hongzhuang was too terrifying. Since yesterday, he had been worried about this matter. Once he attended the wedding, Li Chengxian would laugh at him to death. Just thinking about that scene made his scalp go numb. Su Wanjing was startled. She had never thought of this. Master, do we have to go? Su Wanjing's expression was ugly. Thinking back, it was that girl who had been submissive to her, but now she had to sullenly attend her wedding. It was simply unbearable. Nonsense. Bailey Jintao looked at Su Wanjing with disgust. At this moment, he realized that this woman didn't have any ideas at all. It was fine if she couldn't help him solve his problems, but she had to ask him about everything. It was simply annoying. Su Wanjing's face turned pale. She could clearly see the disgust in Bailey Jintao's eyes. She had been married to Bailey Jintao for so many years. Even when Qin Yiyun was still alive, Bailey Jintao had never been angry with her. Chapter 91. Thinking of this, Su Wanjing's tears could not stop flowing. Husband, how can you treat me like this? Bailey Jintao, who was already annoyed to the extreme, became even more annoyed when he saw Su Wanjing's tears. You only know how to cry all day. What else can you do besides cry? Su Wanjing's body trembled as her tears flowed even more violently. An indescribable sadness spread from the bottom of her heart. Seeing this, Bailey Haoshuan took a few steps forward and said, Father, since there is no other way, it would be better to openly participate in the wedding. In any case, you are a dignified great general. Who would dare to say anything to our face? Even if Prime Minister Li makes sarcastic remarks about us, we can just ignore them. I believe that Prime Minister Li will not keep talking about this matter in front of us. Bailey Jintao's expression eased a bit as he looked at Bailey Haoshuan with praise. In the family, only Bailey Haoshuan could relieve his worries the most. As for Su Wanjing and Bailey Yuyin, it would be good if they did not cause trouble for him. The auspicious time had arrived, and Bailey Hongzhuang was escorted out of Qinzhuang Garden by a group of servants. As soon as she stepped out of the garden, she saw that extraordinarily handsome red figure. She saw Di Beichun wearing a red wedding robe sitting on a horse. His handsome face was filled with a deep smile, like the sun emitting light and heat, attracting everyone's attention. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang had a moment of realization. It was as if her beloved had come to marry her. Her laughter was filled with happiness. Di Beichun also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. He had already thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be extremely beautiful after putting on the makeup of a bride. But seeing her today, it had greatly exceeded his expectations. Compared to her usual bare face, She was less pure and elegant, but more charming and enchanting. Her every frown and smile could hook a person's soul. He had never thought of his bride's appearance, but at this moment, he felt that his bride should look like this. Their gazes met, and they smiled at each other. Nothing needed to be said. In the sound of firecrackers and blessings, Bailey Hongzhuang got on the bridal sedan, and the group of people slowly walked to Prince Chen's mansion. At this moment, Prince Chen's mansion was already bustling with noise and excitement. Many guests had already arrived at Prince Chen's mansion and were chatting and laughing about the wedding. I heard that Prince Chen took the initiative to set the engagement this time. It seems that Prince Chen can't wait to marry Bailey Hongzhuang as soon as possible. Who wouldn't want to marry such a beauty? Didn't you see how His Highness the Crown Prince seemed to have lost his soul for Bailey Hongzhuang? Shoo, you can't let others hear you, someone quickly said. After today, Bailey Hongzhuang will be Princess Chen. If the matter between Xianyuan Huan and Bailey Hongzhuang was brought up, it would be a big taboo. The person who spoke clearly knew that he had said something wrong. He laughed dryly and said, "Do you think the people from the general's residence will come today?" Prince Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang's behavior shows that they don't take them seriously at all. The emperor will come to the wedding in person. I don't think Bailey Jintao will disobey the emperor. He will definitely come. Bailey Hongzhuang has gone too far this time. After all, Bailey Jintao is her father. In my opinion, Bailey Hongzhuang is here for revenge. Before, how the general's household treated Bailey Hongzhuang. Everyone is very clear in their hearts. Chapter 92. The former crown princess married Prince Chen and became Princess Consort Chen, while Bailey Hongzhuang's family was completely ignored by her. The general's estate lost all face. Just thinking about this made them feel that this wedding was exceptionally exciting. Regarding Bailey Hongzhuang's marriage from Qinzhuang Garden, most people felt that great General Bailey Jintao reaped what he sowed. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't cultivate, she was still his daughter. However, Bailey Jintao had always felt ashamed of Bailey Hongzhuang. How could Bailey Hongzhuang not be bitterly disappointed when his two daughters were treated so differently? The sound of firecrackers rang out, and everyone's faces were filled with anticipation. The bride had arrived. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang walked towards the front hall, surrounded by the crowd. The two bright red figures attracted everyone's attention. However, Di Beichen, who was sitting in a wheelchair, still made everyone sigh. Such a peerless talent was actually crippled. If that wasn't the case, then it would really be a good match. At the same time, a sharp voice rang out. The emperor has arrived. The crown prince has arrived. Everyone turned around and bowed. The emperor had personally come to the wedding, which was enough to prove the importance of this wedding. Everyone rise. Xianyuan Yutian smiled brightly. Today is Prince Chen and Princess Consort Chen's big day. Everyone can relax. Thank you, Your Majesty. Li Changxian was currently in a very good mood. Today's wedding had caused Bailey Jintao to lose face. Now that the emperor had personally come, Bailey Jintao still hadn't arrived. Once this hat was pinned on him, it would be a big crime. However, when Li Changxian raised his head, he saw the general's estate's family behind the emperor and crown prince, and his expression couldn't help but change. I didn't expect General Lin to come with the emperor. Li Changxian probed. Xianyuan Yuqian chuckled. We just happened to meet General Lin in front of Prince Chen's estate, so we came in together. Hearing this, Li Changxian secretly spat. This Bailey Jintao was really lucky. Bailey Jintao also glanced at Li Changxian. After so many years of being rivals, he was very clear about what Li Changxian wanted to do. Now that the emperor was here, Li Changxian didn't dare to say anything. Since everyone is here, let the wedding begin. Xianyuan Yutian took the lead and sat down on the high seat in the front. This was his personal seat. It was already a great honor for Prince Chen's mansion to attend the wedding in person. At this moment, everyone turned their attention to the newcomer. Earlier, when the new couple had just entered the antechamber, they had heard that the emperor had arrived. Everyone had been paying attention to the emperor, so they hadn't seen the appearance of the new bride. With this look, everyone's eyes simultaneously surged with a breathtaking light. Earlier, Everyone had some understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang's beauty, but now they felt that the rumors were too simple. Bailey Hongzhuang was more than just beautiful. She was simply devastatingly beautiful. Di Beichen had always been known as the most handsome man in the imperial city. Any beautiful woman standing next to him would lose their radiance. But now, with Bailey Hongzhuang standing next to him, everyone couldn't help but sigh in admiration. They were a match made in heaven. Wow, this Princess Consort Chun is really beautiful. I haven't seen her for a few days, but she seems to have become even more beautiful. They say that Li Yue is the most beautiful woman in the imperial city, but in my opinion, this Princess Consort Chun is the real #1 beauty. That's right, that's right. If I can marry such a beauty, I'm willing to give up 10 years of my life. Everyone wasn't stingy with their praises. Among the people present, there were many patients that Bailey Hongzhuang had treated. Chapter 93. It was precisely because of this that everyone was very grateful to Bailey Hongzhuang. If it weren't for the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang, how could they solve so many problems? Xianyuan Huan stared blankly at the exquisite and perfect woman in front of him. He had known Bailey Hongzhuang for more than 10 years, but he had never looked at Bailey Hongzhuang properly. In his heart, Bailey Hongzhuang, a good-for-nothing, was not worthy of his status at all. Even her appearance could not be compared with Bailey Yuyan. Now, looking at the radiant Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Yuyan could not be compared with her at all. Such a beautiful woman should have been dead set on following him. The person standing in the groom's position at this moment should have been him, but now everything had nothing to do with him. At the thought of Bailey Hongzhuang becoming Di Beichen's woman, he felt suffocated in his chest and regretted it to the extreme. As soon as Bailey Yuyan arrived at Prince Chen's mansion, her eyes stopped on Xianyuan Huan. At this moment, seeing Xianyuan Huan staring at Bailey Hongzhuang without blinking, she only felt annoyed in her heart. Turning her eyes, she wanted to see how beautiful Bailey Hongzhuang was today. She could even seduce the crown prince's soul. With just one look, Bailey Yuyan's face became extremely ugly, and a kind of crazy jealousy spread in her heart. How could this woman become so beautiful in such a short period of time? Feeling Bailey Yuyan's jealousy, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly turned her head and looked at Bailey Yuyan. When their eyes met, a burst of sparks exploded in the air. With an enchanting smile slowly outlined on her exquisite and beautiful face, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bailey Yuyan with disdain. Now Bailey Yuyan was no longer attractive to her, and she even felt that it was a waste of time to take another look at her. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude, Bailey Yuyan's face turned red with anger. She was really too hateful. First bow to the emperor. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang bowed to the emperor together. However, no one saw the disdain and resistance in Di Beichen's eyes. Fortunately, in order to keep up appearances, he did not flare up on the spot. Xianyuan Yutian composed himself, and his face began to smile again. He accepted Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's bow. Second bow to the heavens and earth. When Xianyuan Huan said this, Bailey Yuyan's face stiffened. Since the emperor was here, it was only right to greet the emperor first. However, the next step was to greet the emperor's parents. Yuyan's, Bailey Yuyan's, Vase of Yuyan, and Bailey Yuyan's. Tites, SDI, Bei Chun, and Bailey Hongzhuang bowed to the heavens. Husband and wife bowed to each other. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. It seemed that the conflict between Bailey Hongzhuang and the general's estate had escalated to an irreconcilable level. Not only did they ignore the general's estate during the wedding ceremony, but they also ignored Bailey Zhentao when they were bowing in front of everyone. This was a slap to his face. Bailey Zhentao's face was ashen, and his hands gradually clenched under his sleeves. Blue veins popped out, showing the anger in his heart. This unfilial daughter. She actually dared to embarrass him in front of everyone. Xianyuan Yutian's eyes darkened. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's actions were too much. Shouldn't the second bow be to the emperor and mother? How could they be ignored? Xianyuan Yutian slowly opened his mouth. His attitude was already knocking Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. The front hall was silent, and everyone's eyes were fixed on Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 94. Bailey Yin revealed an expression of watching a good show. At this time, she wanted to see how Bailey Hongzhuang could still be so arrogant. However, Bailey Hongzhuang calmly replied, "Replying to Your Majesty, to be honest, a few days ago, General Bailey had already announced that he would cut off all ties with me. If it wasn't for this, I wouldn't be getting married today." In fact, even she didn't think that Di Beichen would do things so thoroughly. Even when the newlyweds were paying their respects, they completely ignored the general. However, this was exactly what she wanted. Taking advantage of today's opportunity, she would completely cut off all ties with the general's estate. She didn't need this kind of family. Cutting off all ties from now on would save her a lot of trouble. At least from now on, the general's estate would no longer have the qualifications to find trouble with her. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Bailey Jintao's expression changed. Everyone else also looked at this scene in shock. Everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the general's estate didn't get along well for a long time, but they didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would cut off all ties with him. In this way, Bailey Hongzhuang's actions weren't wrong at all. Since Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Jintao had already cut off all ties, she would naturally get married from Qinzhuang Garden. How could she get married from the general's estate? Bailey Hongzhuang angrily looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't dare to believe that this lass would dare to say this in front of the emperor. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression of watching the show had already turned into worry. Bailey Hongzhuang's move was ruthless enough to put the general's estate in an unrighteous situation. Originally, although everyone laughed at the general's estate situation, they didn't think that they were in the wrong. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang said this, everything became the general's estate reaping what they sowed. On the contrary, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't have any problems. Xianyuan Yutian obviously didn't expect this answer, and his gaze couldn't help but fall on Bailey Jintao. "General Bailey, is what Princess Chen said true?" Bailey Jintao had an awkward expression on his face. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's reaction, everyone already understood the situation. It seemed like Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't lying. That day, this prince personally saw his future princess consort being chased out of the house by the general. It was because of this that this prince sent the betrothal gifts to Qinzhuang Garden. Di Beichen suddenly spoke with a hint of mockery. "General Bailey, are you not satisfied with this prince's son-in-law?" Bailey Hongzhuang snickered in her heart. Di Beichen's ability to turn black into white was no worse than hers. He didn't forget to push the blame away when he made the accusation. Everyone was in an uproar when they heard this. They finally understood why Di Beichen would skip the general's residence and prepare for the wedding. Since the general's residence was not satisfied with him, wouldn't he be asking for trouble if he still went up to them? Xianyuan Yutian's eyes flashed with displeasure. If Bailey Jintao wasn't satisfied with Di Beichen, wouldn't that mean that he wasn't satisfied with his betrothal? Bailey Jintao looked at Di Beichen in astonishment. He and Di Beichen didn't have any grudges, but Di Beichen's words clearly showed his dissatisfaction. For a moment, Bailey Jintao attributed this matter to Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang didn't say this to Di Beichen, how could Di Beichen misunderstand him? Chapter 95. It would be terrible if the emperor had a bad opinion of him because of this. Although Bailey Jintao hurriedly expressed his intentions, Xianyuan Yutian's expression did not ease up as he said, "Let the wedding continue." Everyone looked at each other in dismay. It seemed that the emperor had developed a grudge against General Bailey because of this. After the ceremony, Bailey Hongzhuang was accompanied by a mama to the bridal chamber. The mama left the room after exhorting a few things, leaving only Bailey Hongzhuang in the room. Bailey Hongzhuang let out a sigh of relief. This wedding was truly too tiring. In comparison, Di Beichen still had to accompany the guests outside, so he must be even more tired. "Master, I'm afraid that Bailey Jintao will be out of luck this time," Xiaohe asked with a smile. It had long been unhappy with that old fellow, and seeing Bailey Jintao's speechless appearance today made it even more delighted. At least because of this matter, The emperor is quite dissatisfied with Bailey Jintao. I'm sure that Bailey Jintao will have to tuck his tail between his legs and behave himself during this period of time. Xiao Bai's eyes curved into crescents. Every time it saw Bailey Jintao's furious appearance towards its master, it felt suffocated. Today, it could be considered as revenge. Haha, from now on, we won't have to see that old fellow's disgusting face anymore. The black and white furballs were happy. Although this wedding was a bit of a farce, at least Bailey Jintao no longer had the qualifications to say anything about Bailey Hongzhuang. Their ears could finally be at peace. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly smiled. Bailey Jintao's family must be sitting on pins and needles right now. Even if she knew that she wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang's daughter, she still wanted to seek justice for the dead Bailey Hongzhuang. Master, there's a lot of delicious food on the table. Xiao Hei's gaze was fixed on the food and wine on the table. In fact, it was attracted by the fragrance of the food and wine as soon as it entered the room. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows rose. Her mood was quite good today, so she waved her hand and said, "Let's eat." Taking care of the guests wasn't something that could be finished in a short period of time, so she might as well fill her stomach first. The moon hung high above the willow branches, and the night was as cool as water. When Di Beichen opened the door and saw the mess on the table, a smile on his handsome face. He didn't find this scene strange at all. After all, the wife he married was different from ordinary women in every aspect, and this was where Bailey Hongzhuang's charm lay. "Wife, I've come." With a smile on his face, Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Of Bailey Jintao, Spailu of him, Bailey of Bailey. Seeing that Di Beichen did not forget to hide his disability even after drinking, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with appreciation. This guy was really not simple. "It's been hard on you." Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow, downplaying the situation. Di Beichen frowned. "Could it be that wifey only wants to say this to me? What else?" Di Beichen smiled ambiguously and poured 2 cups of wine in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. He handed one to Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "May we grow old together." Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. Looking at Di Beichen's smiling face, she didn't know if this guy was joking or telling the truth. "We're just cooperating with each other. You're being too serious," Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Chapter 96. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't feel like speaking any more nonsense with Di Beichen. It was impossible to tell if this guy was telling the truth or not, so she directly clinked her wine cup with his. "Happy cooperation." Di Beichen's smile became more refreshing. He raised his head and drank the wine in his cup in one gulp. "With a beauty accompanying me, this wine has become even more mellow. Has Bailey Jintao and the others left?" Bailey Hongzhuang slowly asked in a calm voice. "You didn't give him any face in front of so many people. Can he still continue to stay?" Di Beichen asked back. He found an excuse to leave because he wasn't feeling well. TSK, from now on, I'm afraid that Bailey Jintao will thoroughly hate me." As he said this, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with an innocent expression. His eyes were clear and bright. "Wife, you have to properly comfort my wounded heart." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "You've always been quite hateful." Even she didn't expect that Di Beichen would take things to this step. He didn't give Bailey Jintao any face at the wedding, and his words put Bailey Jintao in an awkward position. "Wife, you're not being kind by saying that. I'm doing this for you." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders. She didn't say anything, but her heart was very moved. Di Beichen had taken her feelings into consideration. No matter what, Di Beichen had done this in front of the emperor. There was a certain amount of risk, but Di Beichen clearly knew this and still chose to do this. This was enough to explain everything. After a long time, Bailey Hongzhuang faintly said, "Thank you." She was very clear in her heart that even if the emperor was present today, she would never bow to Bailey Jintao. At that time, the situation would be even more difficult to deal with. Di Beichen's eyes that were as deep as the sea flashed a trace of light. Suddenly, an ambiguous smile bloomed on his lips. "Wife, since you're already my princess consort, Why do you need to be so courteous? As the saying goes, the night of spring is too short. It's a waste for us to chat here. Why don't we do something meaningful? With these words, Di Bei-chen's tone was ambiguous to the extreme. Bailey Hongzhuang blushed. It was her wedding night, so she naturally understood what a normal couple would do. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. It's already late. It's time to rest. Di Bei-chen's eyes flashed as he looked expectantly at Bailey Hongzhuang. He immediately prepared to go to bed and rest. My wife is right. We should have a good rest today. Di Bei-chen deliberately emphasized the word good as a flower bloomed on his lips. However, in the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang directly threw 2 blankets at Di Bei-chen. The smile on her face was even more elegant and enchanting. I'll have to trouble you to sleep on the ground tonight. Have a good rest. As soon as her voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang directly laid down on the bed, using her actions to prove everything. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Di Bei-chen looked at the 2 blankets in his hands. His lips curled into a helpless smile, but his eyes were filled with pampering. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help letting out a sigh of relief when she saw that Di Bei-chen didn't say anything else and directly laid down on the ground to rest. Even though she had lived 2 lives, she still didn't have any experience with this. Lying on the comfortable bed, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't feel sleepy for a long time. Perhaps it was because she had slept on the hard wooden bed in Elegant's Daylily Pavilion for too long, but she wasn't used to such a soft bed. Chapter 97. Wife, is it because the red candles are too bright that you can't sleep? Di Bei-chen's concerned words suddenly came from under the bed. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help being startled as she nodded her head. The red candles are too bright. I'm not used to it. She couldn't help but feel a bit guilty. In fact, with Di Bei-chen here, she couldn't sleep at all. The room darkened as Di Bei-chen blew out the red candles. Wife, you can have a good rest now. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang replied and fell into silence. Forget it. She might as well not sleep tonight. At worst, she could just have a good rest tomorrow. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly heard the sound of footsteps coming from outside the room. Although the footsteps were very light, as a cultivator, her hearing was very good, and she could almost immediately hear it. It was so late, who would be sneaking around outside their room? Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to go out to see who was sneaking around, a figure suddenly pressed her down. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help crying out in alarm, but Di Bei-chen covered her mouth, not letting any sound leak out. Di Bei-chen moved closer to Bailey Hongzhuang's ear and said in a low voice, "The walls have ears." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's tense body relaxed a bit. She immediately guessed that the people outside were sent by the emperor. She still didn't know what Di Bei-chen's identity was, but she was sure that the emperor was on guard against Di Bei-chen. As for the rumors of him being an illegitimate child, after understanding Di Bei-chen's strength, she completely denied this rumor. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Bei-chen and signaled for Di Bei-chen to get off her body. How long did this fellow want to press her down? Although Di Bei-chen wasn't heavy, this face-to-face position was too ambiguous. Wife, you're so beautiful. Di Bei-chen's voice was a little hoarse and out of breath. His eyes stared at the beautiful face in front of him, and a strange feeling spread in his heart. The moonlight shone through the window and into the room. One could vaguely see the other person's appearance. It was hazy and beautiful, making the atmosphere even more intoxicating. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. This was the first time she had looked at Di Bei-chen so closely. She could clearly feel Di Bei-chen's breath. It was hot and slightly itchy, making her want to shrink her neck. His deep and enchanting eyes were shining with a dazzling light. Even the stars in the sky were not as bright as his eyes. Their eyes met, and in that instant, both of them seemed to have forgotten about the people outside the house. They only had eyes for each other. The room was extremely quiet. Bailey Hongzhuang could clearly hear her own heartbeat, thump, 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 interrupting her usual indifference. In my opinion, Prince Chen must be fine. Who would miss such a great beauty like Princess Li? But why is there no movement? Outside the house, 2 people were leaning against the corner of the wall and listening to the movements inside the house. They didn't understand why they were given such a task, but since it was ordered by their superiors, they could only do as they were told. Baichin knocked on the bedboard, making some noise. Hearing the noise, the two people outside the house smiled knowingly. It seemed that they could report to their superiors. As the footsteps of the two people gradually faded away, Bailey Hongzhuang breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, they had dealt with the two guys. You can come down now. Chapter 98. Even though the light in the room was dim, he could still see Bailey Hongzhuang's blushing face. His heart suddenly felt a sense of tenderness. Bailey Hongzhuang's body slightly stiffened. She could feel the heat on her face, but she stubbornly said, "You're thinking too much." "Oh." Baichin's long eyebrows slanted and deliberately dragged out the last syllable. "So it's like this? Hurry up and get off." Bailey Hongzhuang flew into a rage out of humiliation. Earlier, she had wanted to push this fellow off the bed, but she was afraid that her movements would be too loud and the two people outside the room would be heard. Secondly, this fellow's strength was too great. She actually couldn't push him off. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang like this, Baichin's smile gradually deepened. Usually, Bailey Hongzhuang had an indifferent and calm appearance. It was the first time he had seen her fly into a rage out of humiliation, but he felt that it was unusually cute. In the next moment, under Bailey Hongzhuang's astonished gaze, Baichin's handsome face gradually approached her. She immediately pushed Baichin's body, but this fellow was like a mountain that she couldn't push at all. This fellow was simply laughing at her. Just as Baichin's face was about to touch Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly turned her head. His warm breath once again entered Bailey Hongzhuang's neck. Baichin's words made her ears turn red. "Wife, you're so cute." Baichin said these words sincerely. This Bailey Hongzhuang was really too cute and irresistible. "If you don't get off, I'm going to use my trump card." Bailey Hongzhuang gritted her teeth and said. This fellow actually dared to laugh at her. She had to let this fellow know how powerful she was. Baichin's expression changed a bit because he felt Bailey Hongzhuang's slightly bent knees. This little woman was really ruthless. Suddenly, Baichin's mouth hooked up into a devilish smile. He hugged Bailey Hongzhuang's waist and flipped her around. Instead, it was Bailey Hongzhuang who was on top of him. "Wife, you're too ruthless." Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned for a moment when she was suddenly hugged by Baichin. Both her hands directly attacked Baichin. This fellow was too hateful. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was serious, Baichin's hand. He smiled faintly. "All right, I won't tease you. Of teasing you." With that, Baichin loosened his hands and let Bailey Hongzhuang leave his arms. Seeing that Baichin was ready to be slaughtered, Bailey Hongzhuang snorted coldly and decided not to continue arguing with this guy. In fact, she was extremely depressed. If it wasn't for the fact that she hadn't cultivated for a long time, she wouldn't have been suppressed by this fellow. While the two were fooling around, the jade pendant that Bailey Hongzhuang was wearing slipped out of her clothes. Baichin's gaze froze when he saw the jade pendant. "Wife, where did you get this jade pendant?" Hearing the slight shock in Baichin's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed. Baichin's tone clearly indicated that he knew something about the jade pendant. Ever since she obtained this identity token, she had worn the jade pendant on her body, hoping that she could find her biological parents in the future. However, a jade pendant couldn't represent anything. In her opinion, it was too difficult to find her parents through this jade pendant. He had never thought that there would be someone who knew about this jade pendant by his side. Chapter 99. Baichin looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "This jade pendant is a family's keepsake. I was very surprised to see this jade pendant in Fombo country." "Family keepsake?" Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. "Which family is it?" "The Lan family," Baichin frankly said. Anyone who had reached their level, as long as they saw this jade pendant, would know that it was an item from the Lan family. It was not a secret at all. The strange thing was, how did this jade pendant appear in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands? Since it was a family keepsake, it must be an extremely precious item. Moreover, This jade pendant was only owned by a direct descendant of the Lan family. It was too strange for it to fall into the hands of an outsider. Lan family? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Fengbo country does not have a family called the Lan family. I'm not talking about the Lan family. It's not in Fengbo country. It's the top cultivation family of the Shengxian continent, the Lan family. Di Beiqian said in a deep voice. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart couldn't help but be shocked. In her previous life, she was the head of an aristocratic family. Naturally, she knew how powerful the top cultivation families of the continent were. Logically speaking, people from such an aristocratic family should not come to a small place like Fengbo country. Moreover, her parents should have been hunted down. The possibility of this happening was close to zero. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang looking down in thought, Di Beiqian's deep eyes flashed with wisdom. Just the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang had the Lan family's keepsake was enough to prove that she was related to the Lan family. Otherwise, how could she wear it around her neck? Wife, you are related to the Lan family? Di Beiqian slowly asked. His handsome face revealed a rare seriousness. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up. The hazy moonlight shone on Di Beiqian's elegant and perfect face. She could clearly see Di Beiqian's expression. After a while, Bailey Hongzhuang said, Can I trust you? Di Beiqian's eyes gradually changed, and a faint smile appeared on his face. You and I are already a family after getting married. Of course you can trust me. Seeing that Di Beiqian was still saying such unreliable words, Bailey Hongzhuang obviously did not want to continue talking to this guy. She turned around and prepared to leave. However, Di Beiqian grabbed her hand. Caught off guard, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and faced Di Beiqian again, but her figure was closer to him. I'm telling the truth. Di Beiqian gazed into Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, his gaze gentle. You have to believe that no matter what, I will never do anything to hurt you. Di Beiqian's words were like an oath, full of firmness and persistence. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes gradually changed. At this moment, she saw Di Beiqian's firmness. This was also the reason why she asked this question. Although the relationship between her and Di Beiqian was difficult to clarify, she believed that Di Beiqian would not harm her. Sometimes, there was no need for any reason to open hearts. As long as two people believed that the other person was someone they could open their hearts to, then they would open their hearts to each other. If you want to say or ask, you can tell me directly. Di Beiqian smiled. I won't tell anyone. A gentle smile bloomed on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips. Actually, I'm not Bailey Jintao's daughter. When these words came out, Di Beiqian's eyes, which had always been calm, turned into waves. Even he had not thought of this possibility. Chapter 100. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I only found out about this when I left the general's residence. I found it among the things my mother had left behind. As for this jade pendant, my mother had hung around my neck when she brought me back. If you hadn't recognized this jade pendant, I wouldn't have known what it meant. A daughter of the Lan family. This thought immediately surfaced in Di Beiqian's mind. However, on second thought, he felt that it was impossible. He knew very well what kind of colossus the Lan family was. How could such a huge family have left a child outside? Back then, how did the general's wife bring you back? Di Beiqian asked again. Bailey Hongzhuang explained the situation to Di Beiqian in detail. She also wanted to know what her background was like. Covered in blood? Di Beiqian frowned. The Lan family had always been powerful. Even in the entire Shengxian continent, there weren't many forces that could contend with the Lan family. It was impossible for a child of the family to fall to such a state. However, if that wasn't the case, how could Bailey Hongzhuang have the Lan family's jade pendant on her? Suddenly, Di Beiqian's eyes narrowed. He suddenly remembered something. My wife, was it true that you couldn't cultivate? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's right. Then, what was the reason why you couldn't cultivate? All this time, everyone only knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had a good-for-nothing body and couldn't cultivate. However, no one knew that this good-for-nothing body had a problem with her physique, meridians, or some other reason. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up Di Beiqian. She felt that Di Beiqian seemed to know something. Otherwise, he wouldn't have suddenly asked such a question. My dantian was shattered. Bailey Hongzhuang answered truthfully. When she first found out about this, she also felt that it was very strange. Most good-for-nothings in this world were caused by their physique or blocked meridians. A shattered dantian should only happen after a person had suffered a serious injury. She was so young back then, so logically speaking, it was impossible for anyone to be so ruthless to her. Finally, after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Di Beichen's face suddenly changed. His usually calm face faintly revealed some shock. What does the shattering of my dantian have to do with my birth? Di Beichen's eyes darkened slightly as he said slowly, I remember that back then, there was a sensational incident in the Lan family. There was quite a bit of conflict within the family, and the most beloved son of the Lan family's patriarch turned against the family. Not only did he kill some of the family members, he even left the Lan family with his wife and daughter. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. If the Lan family really had such a thing, then would she be... Back then, this matter had a huge impact on the Lan family. Lan Yunxiao has always been the most popular candidate for the next head of the Lan family. His falling out with the Lan family was puzzling for a time, but this was a secret of the Lan family. Under the Lan family's intentional suppression of the news, most people only knew the result and not the reason behind it. You mean that I might be Lan Yunxiao's daughter? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Di Beichen muttered, It's not impossible. Your jade pendant is the Lan family's keepsake. Only the direct descendants of the Lan family can possess it. It's absolutely impossible for it to fall into the hands of outsiders. Chapter 101. At that time, I was still young. Although I had heard of this matter, I didn't take it to heart. There are many details that I don't know. Di Beichen sighed. I will send people to investigate this matter. Thank you. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and didn't refuse Di Beichen's help. Currently, she didn't have the strength to reach that level. If she had Di Beichen's help, she would be able to understand more about this matter. However, Di Beichen's heart was unprecedentedly heavy. If Bailey Hongzhuang's identity was true, then wouldn't Bailey Hongzhuang's enemy be the entire Lan family? Although he hadn't interacted with Bailey Hongzhuang for long, he was very clear that with Bailey Hongzhuang's personality, she would definitely choose to take revenge once the truth was confirmed. When that time came, it would be exceptionally tragic. The night passed in silence. Bailey Hongzhuang was immersed in the news of the Lan family's keepsake. Although she wasn't certain, after learning about Lan Yunxiao's matter, she had a faint premonition that this was the origin of her birth. She believed that Lan Yunxiao wouldn't become enemies with the Lan family for no reason. Something must have happened that he couldn't endure, so he chose to leave the Lan family with his wife and daughter. Originally, she only thought that her parents were ordinary people. Even if they were being hunted down, if they were lucky, there was still a chance of survival. Now that she knew that her parents were being hunted down by the Lan family, she knew that with the Lan family's strength, the possibility of them surviving was too small. Although she wasn't clear about what happened back then, she could imagine how tragic it must have been. If they hadn't been forced to, they definitely wouldn't have left her behind. Di Beichen also didn't sleep that night. He couldn't deny that Bailey Hongzhuang's identity had given him a huge shock. Even if she wasn't Bailey Jintao's biological daughter, it couldn't be more shocking than the fact that she was a daughter of the Lan family. The reason behind this was definitely not simple. When the sun had just risen, the two of them woke up early. Today, they had to enter the palace first to thank the emperor and empress for their kindness. At the same time, the news of Prince Chen's marriage had also spread through the streets and alleys. Bailey Jintao's resentful departure made everyone sigh with emotion. So was General Bailey, who broke off the father-daughter relationship with Princess Chen first. No wonder Princess Chen would get married from Qinzhuang Garden. In my opinion, General Bailey is probably so regretful right now that his intestines are turning green. Back then, he didn't think that Chen Wangfei would be so outstanding. In comparison, Bailey Yuyan really can't compare to Princess Consort Chen. So what if her cultivation talent is outstanding? It's all because of their vicious hearts. The general's residence had become the hottest topic of discussion. Because of Bailey Hongzhuang's existence, the general's residence had always been the center of attention. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had become so outstanding, the general's residence had become the center of attention. I heard from my young master that Chen Wangfei is fully deserving of the title of the #1 beauty in the imperial city. Yesterday, when Prince Chen got married, my young master went to attend the ceremony. That's right, I also heard that. Actually, I think that Chen Wangfei is more beautiful than the Prime Minister's daughter, Li Yuyue. That's right, Chen Wangfei is the #1 beauty. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the prince's residence from the imperial palace, the title of the #1 beauty in the imperial city had already fallen on her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't feel it at all. I'm going back to my room to rest first. Bailey Hongzhuang turned Di Bei Chen away from the door. From yesterday's wedding to now, she felt more tired than if she had fought someone. Chapter 102. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a faint smile. The next room, please. Wife, this room is where we sleep. Di Beichen's eyes were bright as he looked expectantly at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows. Then, I'll go to the next room. Last night, she had been laughed at by this fellow. In the future, she definitely wouldn't let such a thing happen again. Forget it. I'll just go to the next room. Di Beichun helplessly spread out his hands and released the hand that was pushing the door open. Creak. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't hesitate to close the door and let out a sigh of relief. Returning to the room was much more relaxing. Di Beichun smiled as he glanced at the room before turning to enter the next room. If Bailey Hongzhuang were here, she would discover that the two rooms were almost identical. Long before she got married, Di Beichun had already prepared everything. Di Beichun clapped his hands, and He Mu immediately entered the room. He bowed and said, "Young master, send someone to help me investigate the Lan family's Lan Yinshao. It must be done secretly and can't be discovered by others," Di Beichun said in a low voice. His handsome face didn't reveal the slightest emotion. He Mu was puzzled at Di Beichun's words. They had never had any contact with the Lan family. So why did his young master suddenly want to investigate the Lan family? But from Di Beichun's expression, he, who had always followed his young master, knew that his young master was very serious at this moment. He didn't dare to delay any further. "I'll do it right away." After He Mu left, Di Beichun's gaze was deep and distant. If all of this was true, then what should Bailey Hongzhuang do? Such a huge power wasn't something that Bailey Hongzhuang could contend against alone. He couldn't help but worry for Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang did not rest. Instead, she began to cultivate. Originally, she wanted to increase her cultivation as soon as possible because the royal hunting competition was just around the corner. She wanted to make a name for herself during the royal hunting competition. Ever since she found out about the Lan family yesterday, her desire to cultivate had been strengthened. If she did not have enough strength, she would not even have the right to speak to such a colossus like the Lan family. Since she had been reborn, she would not allow herself to have any regrets. And the prerequisite for all of this was to have strength. 3 days later, Bailey Hongzhuang prepared to leave Prince Chen's mansion and go to Godly Doctor Square. Because of the wedding, she didn't go to Godly Doctor Square for the past 3 days. It was time to go today. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, Di Beichun's voice rang out behind her. "Is my wife going to Godly Doctor Square?" Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and saw Di Beichun walking out of the house in his wheelchair. He was looking at her with a faint smile. "Yes." Di Beichun came to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and said with a faint smile, "My wife, the weather is good today. Why don't we go shopping together?" Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned in confusion. Based on Di Beichun's character, he should not be interested in shopping. Why did he suddenly mention going shopping with her? "My wife is now Princess Chen. The clothes you usually wear are too plain. Why don't you buy a few more? Even if you don't want to wear them, you can wear them when you enter the palace. What do you think?" Di Beichun asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. No matter what, she was now Prince Chen's woman and represented Prince Chen's face. It was indeed inappropriate for her to attend some occasions too plain. Chapter 103. He Mu pushed Di Beichun while Bailey Hongzhuang walked beside Di Beichun. Just like that, the three of them arrived at the bustling streets of the imperial city. Many commoners recognized Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. It had to be said that the two of them were too iconic and could be recognized at a glance. Look, Prince Chen and Princess Consort Chen have come out together. It looks like Prince Chen and Princess Consort Chen have a good relationship. Otherwise, they wouldn't be traveling together. Princess Consort Chen lives up to her reputation as the #1 beauty in the imperial city. Her every move is beautiful to the extreme. Di Beichen listened to the discussions of the crowd and raised his long eyebrows. The #1 beauty in the imperial city? Your Highness, you may not know this, but everyone is saying that the #1 beauty in the imperial city is Princess Consort. He Mu's face was filled with pride. Previously, the title of the #1 beauty in the imperial city had always been held by Bailey Yuyin and Li Yuyue. Ever since Princess Consort appeared, this title has unquestionably fallen on Princess Consort Chen. Bailey Hongzhuang had heard Dong Sira mention this before, but she hadn't thought that this title would actually fall on her. This group of people really had nothing better to do. Di Beichen looked at the calm Bailey Hongzhuang beside him. The golden rays of the sun shone on her body, gilding her with a layer of golden light. Even without any makeup, she was still beautiful and ethereal. Her every move was filled with grace and grace. The #1 beauty in the imperial city is worthy of her title. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. She looked at Di Beichen and saw his warm smile. He was sincerely praising her. Can a #1 beauty be eaten as a meal? Just take it as a joke, Bailey Hongzhuang said lightly. She didn't care about this title at all. It was just an empty title. Nichang Market was the imperial city's top clothing store. Regardless of whether it was a young lady of a merchant family or a young lady of an official family, they all loved to come here to buy clothes. Even though the price was much higher than other clothing stores, the business was still very good. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen arrived at Nichang Market, there seemed to be a moment of silence in the market. No one had expected that Prince Chen and Princess Chen, who were currently in the limelight, would come here. This time, the Emperor's personal visit to Prince Chen's mansion had slightly improved Prince Chen's status. At least, it proved that Prince Chen still had a certain weight in the Emperor's heart. Otherwise, he would definitely not attend the ceremony. Even if Prince Chen was often bullied in daily life, only the Crown Prince and the Prince dared to do so. Others definitely did not dare to do so. The lady boss of Nichang Market, Wei Nichang, immediately came forward to welcome them. Chen Wang, Princess Chen, we are honored by your presence. It seems that Chen Wang must have come to choose clothes for Princess Chen. This was the first time Wei Nichang had come into contact with Prince Chen and Princess Chen. Although Prince Chen was sitting in a wheelchair, his back was still straight, without the slightest trace of decadence. There was no need to say more about his handsome appearance, and the elegant temperament he exuded was even more amazing. She felt that this Prince Chen was completely different from the rumored Prince Chen who was easily bullied by others. Just the aura he exuded was incomparable to that of an ordinary person. It was a pity that his upper leg was disabled, otherwise he would definitely be a proud son of the generation. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Not bad. Wife, do you see anything you like? Di Beichen's voice was gentle. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang as if he was looking at his most beloved person. He said again, Lady Boss, please do your own things. We will do as we see fit. Hearing this, Wei Nichang bowed and said, That's good. If Prince and Princess Chen need anything, please call me. Chapter 104. At this time, another figure appeared in Nichang Market. It was the Prime Minister's young miss, the current Crown Princess, Li Yuyue. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was also in Nichang Market, Li Yuyue's eyes couldn't help narrowing as a trace of displeasure appeared on her face. Bailey Hongzhuang was picking out clothes. Her favorite was a set of white clothes, but since she was the Chun princess, she would have to go to the palace many times in the future. If she wore a set of white clothes every time, it wouldn't be appropriate, so she also picked out a few other colors. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes fell on a white dress. This dress was as white as snow with a few peach blossoms dotted on it. It didn't look messy, but rather a bit fresh. Thinking of the peach blossoms in Qin Zhuang Garden, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes filled with a smile. This was the dress she was most satisfied with. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang picked up the dress, a slender arm also fell on the dress. Slightly raising her eyebrows, Bailey Hongzhuang suspiciously looked at the woman beside her. She saw Li Yuyue looking at her with disdain. "This dress, I want it." As soon as she opened her mouth, Li Yuyue's voice was filled with an indescribable strength. She didn't allow Bailey Hongzhuang to resist even half a bit. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly curved into an enchanting smile. "Miss Li, this dress seems to have been picked up by this princess first, so it is mine." Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang dared to refuse her, Li Yue's face instantly turned ashen. "I said that this dress is mine, so it is mine." I didn't know that Miss Li was so overbearing. Bailey Hongzhuang was still as indifferent as before. However, this kind of overbearingness is useless against me. With a slight force in her right hand, Bailey Hongzhuang directly took the dress in her hand. Even if this woman wanted to be arrogant, she had to find the right person. She, Bailey Hongzhuang, was never easy to bully. "Bailey Hongzhuang," Li Yuyue raised her voice. "I'm a crown princess. You dare to offend me? Do you want to die?" Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, but her eyes gradually turned cold. "Miss Li, it's true that you're engaged to the crown prince, but you're not married yet. You're only the future crown princess. You don't have to be in such a hurry to get married, right? Young lady, it's better to be reserved." Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Li Yuyue lightly, the meaning of which was self-evident. Li Yuyue was stunned. She didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to bring up this point. She was indeed not married to the crown prince yet. She was only the future crown princess. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's arrogant appearance, she felt a burst of displeasure. When Bailey Yin was disfigured, she became the #1 beauty in the imperial city. She didn't expect this Bailey Hongzhuang to suddenly appear and steal her title. Truly hateful. Even if she only had enmity with Bailey Yin before and didn't have any interactions with Bailey Hongzhuang, she now felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was even more hateful than Bailey Yin. "No matter what, I'm the future crown princess. You're only an insignificant princess, and you dare to challenge me. Do you believe that I won't find His Highness the Crown Prince to punish you?" Li Yue only wanted to suppress Bailey Hongzhuang right now. After the title of the #1 beauty in the imperial city was stolen, she felt that everyone looked at her differently. Some of the young misses from official families that she didn't have a good relationship with used this to ridicule her. Chapter 105. Using this opportunity, she had to suppress Bailey Hongzhuang no matter what. She had to let her know who was the pheasant and who was the phoenix. "Young Miss Li, you also said that it's the future. Wait until you become the crown princess before saying these words to me." Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were not fast or slow. She took the clothes and walked forward. She still wanted to look at the other dresses. "Bailey Hongzhuang, you're going too far." Li Yuyue stamped her feet as she spoke. She really did not understand. This Bailey Hongzhuang was clearly married to a crippled prince. How could she still be so arrogant? Everyone thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be depressed, but Bailey Hongzhuang was still so proud. This was completely outside of everyone's expectations. "Young Miss Li, if you like to shout like a shrew, then forgive me for not having the same hobby." Once these words were said, Li Yue's face became extremely ugly. Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to call her a shrew? The future crown princess was a shrew? The commotion between Li Yuyue and Bailey Hongzhuang attracted the attention of many people. Normally, there were many people in Nichang Market, and most of the people who came here had a certain status. When everyone saw Li Yuyue and Bailey Hongzhuang together, they knew that there would be a good show to watch. In the past few days, they had heard that Li Yuyue had been sulking in the Prime Minister's manor because her title of #1 beauty had been stolen. Now that they saw the confrontation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Li Yuyue, their hearts were filled with admiration for Bailey Hongzhuang. Once Princess Chen opened her mouth, Li Yuyue could not resist at all, especially that tone, that attitude. Li Yuyue could not be compared to her at all. It was clearly Li Yuyue who had first caused trouble for Bailey Hongzhuang, but now she was being taught a lesson by Bailey Hongzhuang. Look, Li Yue's face is green with anger. Because she has become the future crown princess, Li Yue has been as ostentatious as a peacock recently. She can't wait to show off her engagement with His Highness the Crown Prince. Even I find it ridiculous. Princess Consort Chun is indeed extraordinary. Li Yue has encountered a tough opponent this time. Everyone held the mentality of watching a good show. Normally, it was rare to see such a wonderful show, and they only wanted to know exactly how it would end. Li Yue strode to the front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Her pretty face was slightly cold, and she did not hide her arrogance. Bailey Hongzhuang, if you don't leave this dress behind today, I won't let you walk out of Ni Chong Market's door. There were so many people in Ni Chong Market. If she lost face here today, how would she be able to face others? Are you threatening this prince's wife? A low and magnetic voice suddenly sounded, but it was inexplicably cold. Li Yue was startled. Only then did she realize that Di Beiqian was looking at her. She did not expect that Di Beiqian would suddenly speak at this time. Her face could not help but become a little embarrassed. However, Li Yue quickly recovered her arrogant appearance. That's right. If she does not apologize to me today, I will not let you leave here. As soon as she spoke, Li Yue even brought up Di Beiqian. She was very clear about Di Beiqian's identity. He was just a dispensable prince. In the past, His Highness the Crown Prince had taken pleasure in torturing this guy. How could she be afraid of such a guy? Chapter 106. Hearing this, Li Yue's expression changed. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? Di Beiqian's handsome eyebrows rose slightly, and the smile on his face gradually turned into a cold arc. Are you worthy? Daring to provoke my woman, I will make you regret it. That low voice was filled with cold threat. Di Beiqian's eyes were cold, and an aura suddenly exploded. Li Yue was shocked and stood rooted to the ground. Under Di Beiqian's aura, she felt that her body was out of her control. She looked at Di Beiqian in horror. How come she didn't know that Di Beiqian's strength was so strong? Moreover, even his tone was so domineering that people didn't have the courage to fight back. If you dare to hurt me, His Highness the Crown Prince will not let you off. Li Yue trembled. Looking at those incomparably cold eyes, she felt fear from the bottom of her heart for the first time. Whoever dares to threaten my princess consort, I will also not let that reckless person off. Hearing this, Li Yue's heart turned cold. Di Beiqian was actually so protective of Bailey Hongzhuang. The onlookers were also completely stunned. All along, everyone thought that Prince Chun was easy to bully. They didn't expect him to be so terrifying when he was angry. Most importantly, Prince Chun was now very protective of his wife. It seemed that the rumors were true. Prince Chun was in love with Bailey Hongzhuang. Whether it was the betrothal gifts or not giving face to Bailey Hongzhuang at the wedding banquet, it was enough to prove Prince Chen's feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang. Li Yue actually wanted to bully Bailey Hongzhuang in front of Prince Chun. Prince Chun was angry. Seeing that the situation was so critical, Wei Nikhang hurriedly ran over. No matter who it was, if something happened in Nikhang Market would be in big trouble. Prince Chun, Miss Li only said those words in a moment of impulse. You can't argue with Miss Li. Wei Nichang's face was full of smiles, but her heart was in a perilous situation. Since Prince Chun met Princess Chun, his temperament had changed a lot. Princess Chun was really capable. Bailey Hongzhuang also spoke up at this moment. Li Yue, if you like to find trouble, you should choose a better partner in the future. She had many ways to deal with Li Yue, but they were all done in secret. It was not good to have a conflict on the surface. Your Highness, don't be angry with her. It's not worth it. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a light smile. Di Beiqian's expression eased a little since Wang Fei has spoken. Then let's drop this matter for now. If you dare to ask for a snub again, Ben Wang will not let you have the chance to regret. Seeing Di Beiqian withdraw his aura, Li Yue's entire body almost went limp. Her back was already drenched in cold sweat. Your Highness, wait for me outside. I still have 2 words to say to Miss Li. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Di Beiqian nodded. Mu immediately took the dress that Bailey Hongzhuang had chosen. After paying the money, he walked out of Nikhang Market. After Di Beichen left, Liu bitterly looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. I didn't expect you to be so good at seducing men. Not only Di Beichen, but even His Highness the Crown Prince was captivated by Bailey Hongzhuang. At the selection banquet, he had declared that he would marry Bailey Hongzhuang. This was a thorn in her heart forever. Chapter 107. Li Yue was angry. This woman's words and actions were so unconventional. Today I'm in a good mood, so I don't want to bicker with you. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. I just want to give Miss Li a word of advice. Everything should not be said too early. Back then, I was also the future crown princess. Her voice falling, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't stay any longer, directly leaving Nikhang Market. Looking at the thin figure that was getting further and further away, Li Yue could not say a word. She understood the meaning of Bailey Hongzhuang's words. At that time, Bailey Hongzhuang was also the crown princess, but the marriage contract was canceled. Bailey Hongzhuang was reminding her that before she became the crown princess, anything could happen. Leaving Chang Market, Bailey Hongzhuang saw Di Beichen waiting for her not too far away. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang come over, Di Beichen's lips curved into a smile. Is the matter resolved? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Li Yue provoked her, so she naturally wanted to teach her a lesson. The reason why she stayed behind to say a few words to Li Yue was not to warn her, but to do something. She, Bailey Hongzhuang, was a vengeful person. Why are you so generous today? These clothes are not cheap. Bailey Hongzhuang raised an eyebrow and looked at Di Beichen with a puzzled expression. When she was choosing the clothes, she saw the price. Thinking back to when she asked Di Beichen for 100 gold coins, this guy didn't give it to her. Di Beichen blinked and pretended to be shy as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Other people's money is to be kept for their wife. At that time, you didn't promise me, so I didn't give it to you. Today is different from the past. My wife is already my person, so of course all your expenses will be covered by your husband. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile gradually widened. Although she knew that this guy was lying, she was still in good mood. The next moment, Di Beichen took out a black money card and handed it to Bailey Hongzhuang. If you need money in the future, just take it from this card. The Tianxian Trading Company was a trading company that could be found all over the Shangxian continent. Everyone would deposit their money in the Tianxian Trading Company, making it more convenient to use. Bailey Hongzhuang had earned a lot of money through Godly Doctor Square, but she only had a silver card from Tianxian Trading Company. Di Beichen actually had a black card. The Tianxian Trading Company's money card were divided into 4 grades: cyan, silver, gold, and black. Even in the entire Fengbo country, one would not be able to find a single black card. This was because the Heaven Auspicious Trading Company was spread throughout the entire Shangxian continent. Naturally, there was no need to mention their wealth. But even so, Di Beichen actually possessed a black card. As it turned out, Di Beichen was not a pauper, but a rich man. I have enough money for my own use, so you can keep yours for yourself. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke up. Di Beichen's actions gave her a misconception that only a true married couple would hand over their money. Take it. You're still in the early stages of cultivation, so you should focus all your energy on cultivation. Di Beichen said, in my opinion, your Godly Doctor Square should specialize in selling pills. As for treating patients, it's better to put it on hold. Why? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Di Beichen smiled. My wife, you're now the Chenwang Fei. If you were to appear in public to treat people, it wouldn't be good for your reputation. You care? Chapter 108. I don't mind. Di Beichen shook his head. However, the royal hunting competition is just around the corner. If you can get a good ranking there, it'll be good for you. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood his plan. She nodded and said, then I'll temporarily stop treating patients in Godly Doctor Square. If she guessed correctly, Di Beichen also thought that she was very likely to be Lan Yinxiao's daughter. If she had to face the entire Lan family in the future, she wouldn't have time to waste on Godly Doctor Square. Bailey Hongzhuang temporarily stopped treating patients in Godly Doctor Square, but the pills were still sold. Afterwards, she returned to Prince Chen's estate to cultivate in peace. There was only half a month left before the royal hunting competition. She had to improve her strength as soon as possible. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang directly walked into the room next door to look for Di Beichen. Di Beichen, do you know of any places near the imperial city that are suitable for cultivation? For example, a waterfall or something like that. After thinking about it yesterday, she felt that cultivating in the room could only improve her cultivation, but not her body. In her previous life, she had soaked in all kinds of medicinal herbs since she was young, so her body had always been very strong. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case in this life. Bailey Hongzhuang's body was not only stronger than others, but because of long-term malnutrition, her body was even worse than an ordinary person's. Even if she cultivated now, she still couldn't display her full strength. The root cause of this was her body's problem. It was because of this that Bailey Hongzhuang decided to leave the Prince Chen's estate to cultivate. Only by increasing her body's strength could she display her full strength. Moreover, the cultivation of her body's physique was also beneficial to her cultivation. Taking advantage of her young age to lay a solid foundation would be of great benefit to her future cultivation. Di Beichen immediately understood Bailey Hongzhuang's meaning. He was somewhat surprised. He already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang's daughter. However, during this period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang had changed a lot. Most cultivators only paid attention to the improvement of their cultivation base when they were cultivating and did not pay attention to their own physique. This was especially true for cultivators from small dynasties. They did not know the importance of improving their physique at all. Only some of the top forces would remind them of this problem when they were nurturing the next generation. This problem was not obvious in the early stages of cultivation, but the more one cultivated, the more obvious the effect would be. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was the daughter of the Lan family, she had only found out about this a few days ago. How would she know the importance of improving one's physique? It seemed that Bailey Hongzhuang was even more mysterious than him. Not far from the imperial city, there is a small mountain range with a waterfall, Di Beichen replied. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up, her lips curling into a smile. Really? Where exactly is it? Are you going to go alone? Di Beichen asked. Although that place is not far from the imperial city, there is no lack of demon beasts roaming about. With your current cultivation, it will be dangerous for you to go there alone. No problem. I know what I'm doing. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, but her eyes were unusually firm. In her previous life, she often went out alone to gain experience. Who knew how many dangerous situations she had experienced, so she was very experienced. Even if her current strength was not strong enough, she believed that she could return safely. Chapter 109. Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. I'm going there to cultivate. If you go with me, how will I be able to cultivate in peace? Don't worry. As long as your life isn't in danger, I won't do anything. Di Beichen smiled. You're my precious wife. If you're in danger, what am I supposed to do? Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. What do you want to do with me? Wherever my wife goes, your husband will be there. Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to reply, Di Beichen continued. I'll send someone to prepare and spread the news of us going out together. At the same time, it'll let others know how good our relationship is. Di Beichen. Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth twitched, but Di Beichen acted as if he didn't hear her reply and left. Master, I think Di Beichen is only doing this because he's worried about you. Just let him go. Xiaobai slowly said. Bailey Hongzhuang was only at the late stage of the mysterious Earth realm, which was considered pretty good among the younger generation. However, the mysterious divine continent was filled with monsters. If they were to encounter a powerful monster, Bailey Hongzhuang would be in danger. Xiao He nodded. Di Beichen just can't bear to part with Master. There's nothing wrong with going together. Bailey Hongzhuang revealed a helpless expression, but just as Xiao He and Xiaobai said, there was nothing wrong with Di Beichen going. In the mysterious divine continent, other than humans, there were also monsters. Monsters were able to cultivate just like human cultivators. The higher the level of a monster, the more powerful it was. Unlike the weak bodies of humans, monsters had very strong bodies. Therefore, when fighting with monsters, human cultivators were often at a disadvantage. Not only that, the reproduction rate of demonic beasts was also much faster than that of humans. However, the intelligence of demonic beasts was generally not high. Humans could invent all kinds of cultivation methods and martial skills to increase their combat strength. Demonic beasts could only rely on their own strength, which was why humans were able to keep the demonic beasts in check. The fur of demonic beasts could be made into leather armor, and their blood, eyes, and so on could be used as medicinal herbs. To humans, demonic beasts could be said to be full of treasures. Therefore, many cultivators in the Shengxian continent relied on hunting demonic beasts to make a living. As long as a demonic beast was killed, the materials on its body could be sold for a lot of money. Di Baichen acted very quickly. He knew that with Bailey Hongzhuang's current situation, it was better for her to cultivate as soon as possible. After giving some instructions, he and Bailey Hongzhuang left the imperial city in a carriage. The news that Prince Chun and Princess Chun went out of the city to play together spread from Prince Chen's mansion. The people were very envious of the deep affection between Prince Chun and Princess Chun. Coupled with the fact that Di Baichen was protective of his wife, everyone was even more envious of Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Prince Chen's legs were disabled, he doted on her very much. Coupled with his handsome appearance, these problems could be ignored. Bailey Yuyin almost broke her silver teeth when she heard the news. As she had guessed, Di Baichen doted on Bailey Hongzhuang very much. She just couldn't understand. Bailey Hongzhuang was a good-for-nothing and a woman whose engagement was broken. What was so special about her that Di Baichen treated her like a treasure? However, just as Di Baichen and Bailey Hongzhuang left the imperial city, an earth-shattering scream resounded in the Prime Minister's mansion. Chapter 110. The two of them were very anxious. Yesterday, Li Yue came home with an unhappy face, and no matter how they persuaded her, it was useless. Li Chengxian also hated Di Baichen, but yesterday, Li Yue was indeed unreasonable, and he didn't directly go to Prince Chun to reason. He could only wait for an opportunity to step on Prince Chun. But early this morning, Li Yue suddenly screamed. Did something happen again? Li Yue felt a little itchy on her face when she was sleeping last night, but she didn't care after scratching it a few times. She didn't expect that when she got up and prepared to dress up, she would suddenly find a lot of freckles on her face. The freckles densely covered both sides of her nose, and her originally outstanding face became ugly because of these freckles. She immediately went to fetch water to wash her face, but no matter how she washed, these freckles were deeply rooted on her face and couldn't dissipate at all. How could this be? Li Yue touched her face in horror. How did my face become like this overnight? Li Yue, who was immersed in shock, couldn't believe this fact. She even felt that she was dreaming. This was the face she was proud of. When Li Chengxian and Zhao Wenxiang came to the room, they saw a messy scene. The maidservants were all stunned and didn't dare to speak. Yur, what happened to you? Zhao Wenxiang asked. She knew her daughter's temperament very well. She had never been at a disadvantage, but no one should have angered Li Yue in this way. Mother! Li Yue turned her head with tears in her eyes and looked at Zhao Wenxiang behind her. Seeing Li Yue's tear-stained face, Zhao Wenxiang felt a burst of heartache. But when she looked carefully, she suddenly found the change on Li Yue's face and couldn't help but be stunned. Yue, what happened to your face? Li Yue sadly shook her head. I don't know. When I woke up today, I was already like this. What should I do? She recalled what Bailey Hongzhuang said yesterday. As long as they weren't married, anything was possible. Now that she had become like this, would His Highness still be willing to marry her? Li Chengxian's face also changed. His daughter was going to be the empress. If she became like this, how could she face others in the future? Quickly go find a doctor. Li Chengxian waved his hand and instructed the servants. Yes. The servant quickly took the opportunity to leave the room and went outside to find a doctor. Only then did Li Chengxian and Zhao Wenxiang carefully examine the freckles on Li Yue's face. Just looking at the densely packed freckles made one nauseous. Where was her usual beautiful appearance? How could such a perfectly fine face become like this for no reason? Zhao Wenxiang looked nervous. The day of her wedding with the crown prince was not far away. Once this news got out, their prime minister manner would also become a big joke. After various attempts, Zhao Wenxiang and Li Yuyue confirmed that the freckles were on Li Yuyue's face and couldn't be removed. After a short while, Li Chengxian said in a low voice, "Who have you encountered since yesterday?" Li Yuyue sobbed and said, "No one. Except for the conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang, there was no one else." Hearing this, Li Chengxian's expression couldn't help but change a little. Could it be that this matter is related to Bailey Hongzhuang? Chapter 111. Li Yuyue had always been safe and sound until yesterday, when she had a conflict with Bailey Hongzhuang. Today, she had become like this. This was too much of a coincidence. Li Yuyue was stunned. At this moment, she didn't have time to think. She only wanted to find a reason to push all the blame onto Bailey Hongzhuang. That's right. It must be Bailey Hongzhuang. Li Yuyue nodded. "Father, you must seek justice for me. Don't worry. If this is really Bailey Hongzhuang's doing, I will definitely make her pay the price." Li Chengxian said with a gloomy face. Who was he? He even dared to touch his daughter. Bailey Hongzhuang must be tired of living. Soon, the doctor arrived. After examining Li Yuyue's face, he helplessly shook his head. "I'm really sorry. I can't see the reason for Miss Li's freckles. This kind of situation is unheard of. There's no way at all." Zhao Wenxiang asked unwillingly. If Li Yuyue's face became like this, how could she face others in the future? In my opinion, only Miss Bailey from Godly Doctor Square has a way. If other doctors want to cure her, I'm afraid the possibility is very small. Li Chengxian and the other two's faces turned ugly. They now suspected that this was done by Bailey Hongzhuang. If they went to Bailey Hongzhuang for help, wouldn't they be seen as a joke by Bailey Hongzhuang for no reason? After the doctor left, Li Chengxian found a few more doctors. The results were the same as what the first doctor had said. Apart from Bailey Hongzhuang, there was probably no one else who could cure her. "Master, in my opinion, we should go to Bailey Hongzhuang for help. As long as you make a move, I believe that Bailey Hongzhuang will definitely give you face." Zhao Wenxiang pondered. Li Yuyue hurriedly objected. "Go and ask that woman for help. On what basis?" She was still thinking about how to get back at Bailey Hongzhuang. If she went to Bailey Hongzhuang for help now, she was afraid that she would never be able to get back at her for the rest of her life. Zhao Wenxiang furrowed her brows slightly, her tone carrying a hint of reprimand. The most important thing for you right now isn't to get angry with Bailey Hongzhuang. Think about it. As long as you become the crown prince consort, would you still need to worry about not having a chance to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang in the future? Li Chengxian nodded slightly. Your mother is right. Let's do this. Seeing Li Chengxian and Zhao Wenxiang's resolute attitude, although Li Yue was dissatisfied, she could only agree. After all, saving her face was the most important thing. However, when Li Chengxian sent someone to Godly Doctor Square to invite Bailey Hongzhuang, he learned that Godly Doctor Square had suspended the treatment because Princess Chun and Prince Chun had gone sightseeing. He then sent someone to Prince Chin's estate to inquire, but was told that they didn't know when Prince Chun and Princess Consort would return. This news made Li Chengxian's family feel helpless. At this critical time, Bailey Hongzhuang had left. Didn't that mean that they had no other way? Compared to the Prime Minister's estate, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan were very comfortable. He Mu was driving the carriage outside, while Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan were sitting in the carriage and admiring the scenery on both sides of the street. "Since you've left the Imperial City, you don't need to continue pretending," Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. As a normal person, it was uncomfortable to play the role of a cripple all day. Di Beichan smiled faintly. "If we meet other people in the mountains, then our identities will be exposed." Chapter 112. Right now, he was already trying to understand the news from above. He had endured for so long. Since he could stand up again, there was no need to continue enduring. It wouldn't be long before he could stand upright in front of everyone. Suddenly, a sly smile appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. "Why don't I help you disguise yourself?" Di Beichan raised his eyebrows. "You know how to disguise yourself?" In the pugilistic world, the art of disguise was a necessary skill. However, ordinary disguises were easily seen through, so it was better than nothing. As for the true art of disguise, it could be said that it had been lost for a long time. It was said that the art of disguise from 1,000 years ago could reach the stage where the fake could be passed off as the real thing. Unfortunately, it was no longer available. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. My disguise is not comparable to ordinary disguises. I guarantee that you will be surprised. Since you say it's so magical, then I'll give it a try. Di Beichen's eyes were filled with affection. He could clearly see the sly look in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. He was afraid that this girl had some bad ideas in her mind. After instructing Di Beichen to close his eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang began to disguise Di Beichen. With such a handsome face, she had to dress up properly. Master, Di Beichen's handsome face has been completely ruined by you. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's disguised face, Xiaohei could not help but cover her eyes. It was simply unbearable to look at. Xiaobai's mouth also twitched. She secretly decided that no matter who she offended in the future, she could never offend Master. Master was still angry about Di Beichen bullying Master on their wedding night. Looking at Di Beichen's disguised face, she could tell how angry Bailey Hongzhuang was. A perfectly good face had been ruined. After a while, Bailey Hongzhuang clapped her hands and smiled. It's done. Perfect. Di Beichen opened his eyes and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's smiling face. The corners of his mouth also blossomed into a smile. Look, do you think my painting is good? Bailey Hongzhuang was full of smiles as she handed the mirror to Di Beichen. Taking the mirror, Di Beichen looked at his completely changed appearance in the mirror. The smile on his face froze for a moment. What appeared in the mirror was a rough, burly man. Not only was his face full of stubble, there was also a huge mole on the side of his mouth. I've helped you with your disguise. This way, I guarantee that no one will to recognize you. Although Di Beichen felt helpless about this disguise, looking at himself in the mirror without any trace of disguise, his dark eyes rippled with emotion. This disguise was definitely the best he had ever seen. If he didn't know himself, he wouldn't have believed that this was himself. Wife's disguise is naturally very good. I just don't know what kind of envious expression other people will have if they see a rough man like me being able to marry a beautiful woman like you. Di Beichen Bailey Hongzhuang gave a rough smile. He put an arm around Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. For some reason, seeing Di Beichen like this, Bailey Hongzhuang had a bad feeling. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at their destination. Wang Yi, Wang Fei, we've arrived at the waterfall. He Mu reminded from outside the carriage. Chapter 113. On the way here, how come he didn't notice that there was an extra person in the carriage? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't hide the smile in her eyes. Di Beichen helplessly said, Hey Mu. Hearing this familiar voice, Hey Mu looked at Di Beichen in disbelief. Your Highness? That's right, this princess disguise technique is pretty good. Bailey Hongzhuang revealed a proud smile. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang confirm his guess, He Mu's mouth couldn't help twitching. His young master had always been handsome, but now he had turned into a country bumpkin. This was too funny. If you want to laugh, then laugh. It'll be bad if you get sick from holding it in, Di Beichen lightly said. Poha. He Mu looked at Di Beichen's face as he laughed. Haha, this is too funny. Your Highness is ugly to the extreme. Ugly. Seeing that He Mu was about to cry from laughing, Di Beichen's eyes darkened and he indifferently said, Wife, He Mu has been with me for many years. In order to hide his identity, he has also changed his appearance. As for his disguise, it has to be uglier than me. He Mu was stunned. Thinking of this appearance, he really couldn't accept it. Your Highness, I was wrong. You're a great person. Please don't hold a grudge against a lowly person. Please forgive me this time. Your Highness, I won't laugh at you in the future. Your Highness, please be merciful. In the end, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen ignored He Mu's pleas and changed him into an even uglier country bumpkin. Di Beichen, who was originally too horrible to look at, now looked much better with the even uglier He Mu as a comparison. Mu sullenly looked at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. These two fellows were simply colluding with each other. They only knew how to bully an honest person like him. This was too pitiful. What appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang was a giant valley with green trees and beautiful scenery. Rumble. The sound of the waterfall crashing down was terrifying and clear. Just by listening to this sound, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that this waterfall was not small. The water vapor blew against his face, and under this clear and cloudless weather, it was quite enjoyable. Even his originally depressed mood was gradually lifted. "Wife, what do you think of this place?" Di Beichen asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded in satisfaction. "Very good. It's better than I expected. As long as my wife is satisfied." Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at the two men beside her and said, "Then I'll go cultivate under the waterfall. You guys could do as you please." After saying that, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer paid any attention to Di Beichen and Mu. She had originally intended to cultivate by herself. As for what these two fellows wanted to do here, it had nothing to do with her. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's figure gradually disappear into the distance, Mu looked at Di Beichen in confusion. "Young master, you're just going to let the princess consort cultivate by herself? She can cultivate by herself. What can I do? Then what did we come here for? To take you out for a walk?" Mu rolled his eyes. "Young master, the scenery here is so beautiful. Why don't we cultivate together?" All right. Mu was helpless. He finally understood that his young master had only come here to ensure the princess consort's safety. He had never imagined that his young master would one day become a bodyguard like him. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to the bottom of the waterfall. Looking at the Tinjiang Tall waterfall, her eyes flashed with a complicated light. Chapter 114. "Master, this waterfall is too big. Based on your current strength, it'll be a little difficult," Xiaobai said in a low voice. On the path of cultivation, it was normal to encounter danger within a certain range. However, if the danger was greater, then it was better to be cautious. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered for a moment. According to her experience, although there was a certain amount of danger in cultivating here, it was not life-threatening. As for injuries and the like, since she had embarked on the path of cultivation, injuries were unavoidable. After making up her mind, Bailey Hongzhuang walked resolutely towards the bottom of the waterfall. The loud sound of the waves filled her ears. Her clothes were completely drenched in the first moment. It was spring now. When she touched the river water, it was still icy cold. Bailey Hongzhuang's face paled a little because of the cold. "Master, can we return to the Chaos Ring?" Xiaohei struggled to ask in the waves. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. "You two fellows are unwilling to suffer. Your strength needs to increase too. It's better if you cultivate with me." "Master, don't," Xiaohei wailed. She originally looked beautiful and delicate, but now she looked like a drowned rat. Her soft and shiny fur. Ruined. Ruined. Everything was ruined. The stones under the waterfall were very slippery. On top of that, with the pressure of the waterfall, Bailey Hongzhuang almost could not stand firm. Her entire body was thrown more than 10 meters away. Her body slammed against the stones, and she felt a piercing pain. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to feel the pain and continued to walk towards the bottom of the waterfall. The outcome was the same. Bailey Hongzhuang did not even have time to stand firm before her entire body was thrown down by the waterfall. Bailey Hongzhuang stood up again. She insisted on walking towards the bottom of the waterfall. Xiaohei and Xiaobai, who had been complaining, quietly shut their mouths when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang's persistence. In the face of such pain, even their master didn't say anything, so it was really inappropriate for them to be chirping here. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips had already turned purple from the cold, but her deep eyes were shining with a bright and resolute light. The conviction to become stronger was supporting her from the bottom of her heart. She wanted to become stronger, for all the humiliation she had suffered, for her biological parents, for her unyielding pride. Time and time again, Bailey Hongzhuang was mercilessly swept far away by the waterfall and stood up again and again. From beginning to end, she never wavered. Not far away, When Heimu saw Bailey Hongzhuang like this, his heart filled with deep admiration. Wang Fei is too stubborn. Heimu sighed. I'm afraid she's not much different from young master. He had followed the young lord since he was young and had watched the young lord go through all kinds of hardships to cultivate. Everyone else only saw the glorious side of the young lord, but only he knew how much the young lord had suffered. There were many female cultivators around them, but it was rare to see someone cultivate as hard as Wang Fei. Di Beichen's eyes flashed with admiration. From the first time he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he knew that this woman had a strong heart. This was the first time he saw Bailey Hongzhuang cultivate. From that unwavering gaze, he seemed to see himself in the past. They were both people who were willing to risk their lives. In order to increase their own strength, they were willing to give up everything. Perhaps it was because of this that he, who had always been blunt with women, wanted to be good to a woman for the first time. Chapter 115. Di Beichen waved his hand. Even if you go, what can you help her with? Heimu was slightly stunned. After thinking for a moment, he had no choice but to admit that they couldn't help her at all. Cultivation is one's own perseverance. Although others can give you some pointers, in the end, you still have to rely on yourself. Di Beichen's lips curled up slightly. Besides, Bailey Hongzhuang already has a cultivation method in her heart. Only when night fell did Bailey Hongzhuang walk out from under the waterfall. Her body had already been frozen stiff. The burning pain continued to spread, causing her to frown. Not far from the waterfall, there was a shallow cave. It should have been a demonic beast's nest in the past, but now it was empty. It was very suitable for her to rest. After walking into the nest, Bailey Hongzhuang carefully examined the injuries on her body. Her shoulders were already green from being hit by the river water. Her hands and feet were also bruised from the collision in the process of being washed out. Some areas even had blood seeping out. In just a short day, she was practically covered in cuts and bruises. The quality of this body is really bad. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. If she wanted to completely increase the speed of this body, she was afraid that it would take a lot of time. Wife! At this moment, Di Beichen's voice suddenly came from outside the cave. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked out of the cave. She saw Di Beichen looking at her with a smile, but Heimu wasn't by his side. Why are you here? She had noticed that Di Beichen had also gone off to cultivate. They had agreed not to disturb each other during cultivation. This is for you. Di Beichen handed an exquisite white porcelain bottle to Bailey Hongzhuang. Once your body's strength has reached its peak, take this pill. It will greatly improve your body's quality and cultivation. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang took the white porcelain bottle and waved it in front of Di Beichen. Many thanks. Then rest well. Don't force yourself. Di Beichen gave a few words of advice before leaving. He and Heimu also discovered a cave not far away. If Bailey Hongzhuang made a move, they would be able to detect it immediately. Watching Di Beichen's figure disappear into the night, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was filled with warmth. With Di Beichen's current state, there was no need for him to go to the wild at all. It was much more comfortable to cultivate in Prince Chen's mansion than here. The reason why he came here was entirely for her safety. So far, Di Beichen was probably the only person who had done so much for her safety. Back in the cave, Bailey Hongzhuang took out the pills that Di Beichen had given her. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately recognized the name of the pill. This is the 7 Treasure Pill. The 7 Treasure Pill was extremely useful for low-level cultivators. It was even more effective than the Peiyuan pill. The ingredients for the 7 Treasure Pill were extremely precious. Bailey Hongzhuang had previously wanted to refine it for her own use. However, after asking around in the medicine shops in the Imperial City, she was unable to gather enough ingredients to refine the 7 Treasure Pill. Thus, she could only refine the Peiyuan pill, which was slightly less effective. She did not expect that Di Beichen actually had the 7 Treasure Pill. Moreover, there were quite a few of them. With this 7 Treasure Pill, her cultivation speed could be said to be twice the result with half the effort. Without hesitation, she took out a 7 Treasure Pill and swallowed it. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes and entered a state of cultivation. Chapter 116. The next day, when the sun had just risen, Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the cave. After a night of training, the pain from yesterday's body had subsided a little. Although there was still some pain, it was completely within the limits of what she could endure. After taking the 7 treasures pill, she could clearly feel that the elemental energy in her body was much stronger than before. This was an increase in her strength. Sweeping her gaze, Bailey Hongzhuang did not discover Di Beichun and He Mu. She did not continue to search, and instead went to train under the waterfall. Now, she was racing against time. In order to achieve good results in the royal hunting competition, she had to quickly increase her cultivation. The reason why she wanted to achieve good results in the royal hunting competition was to clear her name as a useless person, and also because every royal hunting competition had rich rewards. This time, the royal hunting competition's reward just happened to have something she needed, so naturally, she could not let it go. With yesterday's experience, Bailey Hongzhuang was able to endure for a little longer when she trained again. However, it was only for a short few seconds, and her body was once again washed out. Although it was only for a short few seconds, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was still filled with joy. As long as there was progress, one day she would complete the tempering of her body. Time flew by like a white steed, passing by in an instant. Bailey Hongzhuang would train until she was completely exhausted every day before stopping. At night, she would take the 7 treasures pill in the cave to train. Under this kind of perverted training, Bailey Hongzhuang's improvement was extremely fast. Coupled with her unique training method, even Di Beichun was shocked by her speed. Even with the help of the 7 treasures pill, it was reasonable to say that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength should not have increased so quickly. He Mu was already full of admiration for Bailey Hongzhuang. He originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to endure for the first day, and that it would be more difficult for her to do it every day. He never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to endure for longer each day, as if she could not feel the pain and despair. If he had the same perseverance as Bailey Hongzhuang, his strength would definitely increase by a few notches. Every day, Di Beichun and He Mu would hunt different demonic beasts and bring them back, roasting their meat as a meal. He Mu's cooking skills were unexpectedly good. Every day, Bailey Hongzhuang was able to eat her fill. Not to mention, the flesh of demonic beasts was filled with rich energy, which was extremely beneficial for her to replenish her physical strength. Although she didn't know if Di Beichun did it deliberately, Bailey Hongzhuang was very grateful to Di Beichun. Of course, that was under the condition that this fellow was not talkative. Finally, the royal hunting competition was about to begin. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 had also embarked on their return journey the day before. Through this period of cultivation, Bailey Hongzhuang clearly felt the changes in her body. Although her body was still slender, her strength was far from what it used to be. Her muscles were more compact, and even her skin had become more lustrous. Under the nourishment of the demonic beast meat, the malnutrition that she had suffered for more than 10 years was completely cured. Her entire body was emitting a lustrous luster, and even her strength was much stronger than before. In the afternoon, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun finally returned to Prince Chen's estate. After living in the wild for more than 10 days, returning to Prince Chen's estate again felt an indescribable sense of familiarity. Li Chengqian's family had been worrying about Li Yuyue's freckles recently. Chapter 117. Master, tomorrow is the day of the royal hunting competition. Yue will also participate. How can she face the crown prince with her appearance? Zhao Wenxiang was very worried. These days, the prime minister's mansion had indeed blocked the news, but tomorrow, it couldn't be hidden anymore. Li Chengqian's face was very gloomy. The royal hunting competition will start tomorrow. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others should also be back. Are they not going to participate in the royal hunting competition? Why is it impossible? Zhao Wenxiang sighed. Bailey Hongzhuang is a good-for-nothing. It's meaningless for her to participate in the royal hunting competition. Prince Chen's legs are disabled. How can he participate in the hunting competition? Hearing Zhao Wenxiang's words, Li Chengqian's face was even more gloomy. If so, we can only let you or pretend to be sick tomorrow. No matter what, we can't let the emperor and the crown prince know about this. I've been preparing for the royal hunting competition for a long time. Li Yuyue was very depressed. In order to show her brilliance in the biennial royal hunting competition, she even took a pei-yuan elixir. Now, she was going to miss this opportunity. Do you want to see the crown prince with this appearance? Li Chengqian's voice was cold. He had waited for so many years for the opportunity to make Li Yuyue a phoenix. He couldn't let it go to waste now. Just when Li Chengqian was very upset about this, the steward hurried over. Master, good news. What good news can there be at this time? Zhao Wenxiang said in a muffled voice. Master, Prince Chun and Princess Chun are back. They just returned to Prince Chen's mansion. The steward was very happy. He had sent people to keep an eye on Princess Chun according to Master's order. Once Prince Chun and Princess Chun came back, he would immediately report the news. Hearing this, Li Chengqian and the others couldn't help but be stunned. Then their eyes shone brightly. After waiting for so long, Bailey Hongzhuang finally came back the day before the royal hunting competition. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang could cure Li Yuyue's face today, everything would be fine. Thinking of this, Li Chengqian and the others couldn't help but feel excited. Li Chengqian immediately sent someone to prepare a carriage and rushed to Prince Chen's mansion with Li Yuyue. Now, this matter could not be delayed at all. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her room and was about to rest when she heard a servant report that the Prime Minister had arrived. Upon hearing this news, Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and her lips curled into a mocking smile. It seemed that Li Yuyue didn't have a good time while she was away. At the same time, Di Beichen also came into the room. Li Chengqian is here. He specifically asked to see you. How is it? Go play with him? Hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Since the Prime Minister is here, we naturally have to meet him. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang affectionately. He already knew why Li Chengqian came to Prince Chen's mansion. He knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was not someone who would suffer losses. It turned out that such a thing happened after Nikkei Market. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen came to the front hall unhurriedly. Li Chengqian's heart was already full of anger. He was the Prime Minister and the future father-in-law of Fengbo country. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang dared to make him wait. Chapter 118. Li Chengqian said sarcastically. Although he didn't directly get angry, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen weren't stupid and could naturally hear the anger hidden in his words. What business does Prime Minister Li have with us? Di Beichen's expression was calm, as if he didn't feel Li Chengqian's anger, and went straight to the point. Surprise flashed through Li Chengqian's eyes. Di Beichen didn't have any status, so logically speaking, he should be in fear and trepidation. But now, as soon as Di Beichen opened his mouth, a shocking aura spread out and gave him heavy pressure. It was because of this pressure that Li Chengqian didn't continue to make things difficult. He said, "Today, I came to ask Princess Chun for help." A trace of confusion appeared on her pretty face. Bailey Hongzhuang asked, "You're looking for me?" Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's natural expression, Li Chengqian's heart was pounding. Did this matter really have nothing to do with Bailey Hongzhuang? When he asked this question, he had been observing Bailey Hongzhuang's reaction. If this matter was really done by Bailey Hongzhuang, she shouldn't be able to disguise it so well. Recently, my daughter's face has started to have spots for no reason. I hope Princess Chun can treat it. Li Chengqian said slowly. Although he was asking Bailey Hongzhuang for help, Li Chengqian's face was still full of arrogance. With his status, Bailey Hongzhuang had to treat him even if she didn't want to. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile as she looked at Li Yuyue behind Li Chengqian. Her voice was provocative. Miss Li is here to ask me to treat her. Li Yuyue came to Bailey Hongzhuang with great reluctance. Earlier, she was showing off to Bailey Hongzhuang, and now she was asking Bailey Hongzhuang for help. Wasn't this slapping her own face? Ask you. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's provocative question, Li Yuyue's face turned red with anger. In your dreams. Oh, Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. Then please go back. I have other things to do. Bailey Hongzhuang's posture was languid, and her words were indifferent. In fact, since she chose to drug Li Yuyue, she had no intention of treating her. She was never a kind person. Had. Li Yuyue. Was. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you know who I am? You. Actually, Li Chengqian's face was similarly gloomy. This Bailey Hongzhuang really didn't know what was good for her. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into an enchanting smile. Li Yuyue, is that the only thing you know how to say? Her clear eyes were filled with impatience. Bailey Hongzhuang felt that Li Yuyue was really a brainless idiot. She only knew how to use her status to bully others. Apart from that, she had no other use. How dare you? Li Chengqian was furious. Bailey Hongzhuang, I am the Prime Minister. Do you know the consequences of offending me? Bailey Hongzhuang's smile gradually turned cold, and her voice was bone-chilling. I am Princess Consort Shen. What can a Prime Minister like you do to me? If you have the ability, then do it. Don't talk nonsense here. I don't want to listen. Li Chengqian was even more furious at her words.